just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself!
Hey Internet, we're back. It's three averagely intelligent dudes discussing dangerous ideas. I'm back again with another badass episode of our badass fucking podcast. I've been having fun with this, boys.
We're just the most badass dudes.
I've been having fun with this, boys. I gotta admit, it's been a good time.
I mean, this is pretty badass.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying myself. I feel very dangerous too.
I mean, this is like kind of like Rambo level danger that we're experimenting with here.
Really?
I think
More
so.
importantly, I think soon. I mean, what? After at least 100 of these, I might not be so averagely intelligent anymore.
Hey, that's a very good point.
I might be
My game-
kind of extra intelligent, honestly, after a couple of these sitting with
I'm
you
going
boys.
I'm like +3 intelligent points just
Easily.
this week. Just this week, at least easy +3.
Yeah, been going up. Today, we got an awesome episode. John, I gotta tell you, man, at first, when we were talking about subjects and all that stuff for this week and this and that, and you threw this idea out.
In our midweek weeding, but midweek.
I'm midweek weeding?
Midweek meeting during our midweek. See, that just shows how professional we are.
We're boys.
The fact that we have the midweek meeting.
And that we can't say midweek meeting.
Stop, man. You're trying to bully me on the podcast.
So, when you brought this topic up, I was like, actually pretty fascinated. But after doing my research on this topic, my God, sir, you cracked up in a gold mine here, bro. It just fucked up my whole paradigm, man. My shit's all fucked up. I was telling back, I was like, I don't know if we're the good guys anymore. I really don't. I don't even know. I don't think we are the good guys. I actually think we might be the bad guys. And so today we're going to be talking about militarization and the use of force in our society. We're going to be talking a little bit about how maybe our military-industrial complex has come along, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. But we'll see what you guys think. I came up with some very fascinating ideas on this topic, man. I got to admit.
I think we're also going to talk a little bit about foreign policy as well. I think anytime that you're going to talk about military, that's implied because it's,
It's what they do.
our military. It's what they do,
Yeah.
We are very imperialistic as much as we, like to say that we're like the police of the world. Like, look at what America's police do to Americans.
Yes.
If you know what I'm saying? Like, we're the police of the world. Like, the world should be a little scared. I would be a little scared.
No,
if I was
actually,
like,
honestly,
if I was Belgian, I'd be
That's kind of where I got it from. I noticed that, let's go ahead and roll this clip. This is a clip that's been kind of going around the internet and kind of stoked this conversation that we wanted to have as well. And this is good old AOC, and she's making this point about militarization of our police force.
We would not be giving local police departments who are undertrained a tank if we didn't give the military too much money to have extra damn tanks lying around to begin with.
I mean, she brought up a damn good point. And then really, like I said, even at the time when I first came across this, I didn't really realize how good of a point it was. I was like, oh, good zinger out there. You're right. Police got a tank. What the fuck? Which, by the way, I haven't seen a police tank yet. Has anybody seen an actual police tank? I've seen the MRAPs, and I know that's what they're
I have not
getting
personally seen.
but I haven't seen a police Bradley.
Well, I've seen like one. I haven't seen a police Bradley, but I saw one that looked like, what's the one that they use in the streets? The Striker? Is it like that kind
the
of?
short one.
The MRAPs. They have the MRAPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know they got MRAPs, but I've seen they have like 6-wheel like rectangle, like we'll have to look a little more, but I've definitely seen
Little boats.
No, not well. They look like they could just hit the water and then go flying. Yeah. They do.
They look like
They
boats.
do.
Yeah, they look like you could just like autonomous or amphibious vehicles. Like you could just.
Definitely different from like an MRAP. Like it's not like a heavy truck. It's more like an armored assault.
I know
rectangle.
the one with the little turret on top and this and that.
Yeah.
Like, here, let me share screen.
Yes, please do, so we can get on that same page.
Talking about, though.
This joint.
No, that's like a MRAP. That's
Okay,
just
that's
a.
not
Yeah, no, that looks like it's made by International, the same company that makes the MRAP. It looks like the same platform. They
call
have
it when you
down.
see it.
You see in the middle there? Nope, up. Yeah. Anyways, the one above that, the one that says, yeah, that one there. That one looks a little more like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I've seen ones before. Yeah, there we go. See the SWAT one, military surplus vehicles? Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it right there.
Look. UC Berkeley police acquire. Like, come on, man.
Oh, I can't
Good old Pinterest.
Yeah, for real. I'm like, is this Photoshop? Don't let me find out.
Is this Photoshop?
Nah, if you go back to that Google Images results, right underneath this picture on the right there, you got a little headline about UC Berkeley police, and it looks like they're driving around. Maybe it might be just some fuckery, but
a growing number of police departments across the country are building our own armed surprise. The University of Berkeley, California, known as a center.
Yo, if any university in the country needed one of those, it's Berkeley.
Hey, if anybody, if you can make a solid argument that's, hey, look, y'all motherfuckers are crazy.
Y'all like to get rowdy out here, bro. We need to contain you fools.
Make sure you save that tab so we can link to that video.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll just leave it up.
Okay.
But no, dude. So I mean, I feel you. Like I said, she's being a little sensationalistic here. I mean, I'm just to be fair. I mean, it's not an actual tank. You know, it's just
she's playing up to the culture.
Right?
That's all it is. Like you got to have your Twitter hot take.
Facts.
You know, I mean, that's what we heard when we first heard this news was the two sentences that are relevant.
Yeah.
Right.
Facts.
That's true because it is. As you were saying, it is just the first part of a very much longer clip.
Yeah. But nonetheless, so they're armored personnel carrier type situations. But come to find out, that's what's happening is like the government has a fuck ton of these laying around from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from everything else we've ever done around the country, like around the world. They're just sitting around. And so, now I get the logic. This is something that they're always trying to apply some type of like decent logic, but in the end, it's like, to what fucking extent? So they're like, well, they're just sitting around. We gotta find some way to put them to good use. You know, what are you guys doing? Aren't y'all fighting a war on drugs or something? You need a MRAP. You know, and it's good intentioned, but the answer is no. no, we don't need an MRAP.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I think it would be smarter if you had some sort of system where, like, the National Guard is going to have these vehicles to train on, right? So if you have National Guard units all over your state, if you need to call upon a SWAT team to hit a trap house full of 20 guys with choppers, then, yeah, you might need some heavy vehicle, right?
Yeah.
But why doesn't the National Guard just have them and say, okay, we can lease them out to the police or something? Everybody's got to have their own with their own emblem and their own no, bro.
Facts.
No, what are you talking about,
That's
bro?
facts.
Why do we need, like, hundreds of these fucking crazy vehicles all over the country when, how often are they used? Now, if they're a military vehicle, if there's something that you want, like that you would see at a motor pool, you know what I'm saying? Then a lot of that too is like, well, if we go to war, we're probably going to want a lot of these Bradleys.
Well,
if we got to fight Iran or North Korea, we might want some Shermans.
You're going to want them, and you're not going to want to have to build them. You're not going to want to have to wait to build your tanks.
Oh, yeah.
But, like you said, the people you're fighting against also have Bradleys and tanks and missiles and things.
Yes. So it seems like an equal use of force.
Right. What American citizen has even armor-piercing rounds that are going to get through this thing? Like, what is this? What is it that you're exactly defending yourself against? You know? It was actually hilarious in my research of this. That was one of the funniest things I thought about this whole program, about this idea of the Army passing this stuff down, is you got the police, right? The police are like anybody. They're like me in the military. I'm like, oh, free gear? By all means, please. Nobody turns down free shit, all right? Nobody's like, nah, you keep it. They're like, yo, even if we can just hawk this shit for parts, like, let's take this, right?
Let's not talk about having to turn gear back in. That's a sore spot for me. Okay, let's not talk about having to turn gear back to them that they expect you to have kept for a very long time.
But they're not even expecting that. They're like, here, it's yours. Keep it. $450,000 worth of machinery. You have it. You should. Anyways, so these guys are like, yeah, please. I was looking at different police departments around the country. Places like Somerset, New Jersey. Just like these like beautiful places that are like small towns, 100, 150,000 people. And these fools are like out in they're like, they might as well be military LARPers, bro.
Yeah, they're totally LARPing. Great use of the term. They are LARPing as military.
Bro,
What did I call him earlier today? I called him a G.I. Joe wish you was. He's damn G.I. Joe wish you was.
In middle suburbia, right? Jumping out the back of their MRAP. They got like a little bomb dog thing, you know? And they're like, what do you do with this? He's like, well, I mean, it could be a bomb situation. It could be some type of chemical gas situation that we're dealing with. We just don't know. And then we can send our bomb dog in there and stuff. And I'm like, yes, this all seems logical.
Chemical
and so the guy's like, you know, since you've had this, you know, what have you had to, you know, do with it? You know, anything? No, we haven't really used it much since we got it. It's just sitting there. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's like dirt bikes and four-wheelers for cops, man. It's something they can fucking spend. Because think about it. Some of these local municipalities, or whatever you want to call them, these towns, cities, whatever, these police forces, they're reeling in the cash, bro. They are reeling in the cash. Like, if you were in a well-to-do area of, like, a middle-sized state, man, all you got to do is sit out there and catch them people in their Beamers and their Mercedes.
Bro, and just take
drive it a little fast. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, if you widen the roads, you get the toll booths. I don't know where that money goes.
Bro, that's what I'm saying. Like, let's not act like these people aren't shaking you up and finding you. That money goes somewhere, and I think people...
And they spend it.
Yeah, and they spend it. It's just like I said, like these fools, they're like, all right, we're going to take the gear in. And, I mean, obviously, this is leading me to a bigger part of the conversation I want to talk about, of course. It's like, as I was talking to Mac about this whole conversation, I said, man, you only need to look up one thing. There's only one number that you need for this entire conversation that we're going to have today. And I said, just Google military defense spending budgets by country. That's it. That's all you need. That's all you need to look at.
You need that one number, yeah.
That's
that one number is pretty relevant. It's like, you know, if our biggest enemies are reportedly, you know, spending a quarter or less of what we're spending every single year, like, doesn't that just, like, that adds up? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're spending twice as much as everybody every year for 40 years.
Yeah.
More.
He said more. Give me more. Give me more.
Wrong.
Woo!
We spend the
Almost
most,
$2 trillion, huh?
the most on military with the best.
This pie chart fucked my
Oh,
shit
stop.
up, bro. This pie chart
What?
fucked my shit up, bro. This pie chart fucked my shit up.
Stop.
Bro, it's so funny. The next highest group is the rest of the world after all of these other countries get their slice and China's sitting there in third.
No, I looked at this pie chart and I said, wait, hold on. Germany conquered half of the free world.
Correct.
With a $50 billion budget over here. They're this little itty bitty sliver.
And we've seen some fall from graces on there, and we're seeing some rises as well, my friend. Look at some of these.
Let's not talk about big China boys back here on the back.
No, that ain't the story, bro. China ain't the story, bro. Look at my homeboy India right there with 66.5. Look at my boy India right there, bro.
Right. Uh-huh.
Like, if World War III pops off, all I'm saying is India's got our back, bro.
India's a force out here, bro.
You think they got our back?
Bro, have you seen how many Indians live in America that emigrate here? Indians love America. America loves India. It's a known thing.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I feel like they're going to go to war with us.
I'm not saying they're going to, quote-unquote, go to war, but if World War III happens, everybody's got to choose a fucking side,
gotta wonder
bro.
why they're still...
That's not true. India wasn't in the first two world wars.
Bro, that they weren't a superpower with nuclear weapons.
They weren't spending
66.5
back then, you know?
Yeah, like, they're trying to go to space, my dude. They weren't going to space during World War II, my man.
First of all, we're a third. We're a third of all the world's spending by ourselves. By ourselves. That's crazy. Nonetheless, look at this. Here's another funny joke I thought of, or a funny little point to make. Iran. You gotta watch out for Iran, okay?
Yeah, we gotta watch out.
You gotta look.
Crazy.
You don't know what they're capable of, and the last thing we can let them do is get their hands on some big body toys, right? They can't be having no nukes or nothing.
That's
Iran.
the narrative. That's the narrative.
Is this tiny sliver here? this little green slick. Can y'all see this? No. Let me try and zoom for you.
You said let me zoom. Look at you. You're trolling.
Okay, but nonetheless, we should be afraid of them.
Yeah.
I don't get it, man. I don't get it. So there's definitely something foul at play here, and I kind of think I figured it out. I don't know what you guys came up with. But.
Well, I want to make another point that where in this pie chart is the Hermit Kingdom of the People's Republic of North Korea, or whatever the official NPRK North. I don't know. Whatever it is, North Korea, Kim Jong, bro. Like,
Sir, they're holding up half of this rest of the world.
I mean, is that?
I think anybody in that rest of the world slice is gonna be under 11. It's probably the cutoff is probably 10 bill, so everybody under that is 10 bill.
Easily. North Carolina's North Carolina.
North Carolina.
They're spending a lot.
They probably don't have North Korea's numbers.
It's not a lot though. That's true too. But I'll tell you what, it can't be anywhere near us.
And I honestly don't believe.
I know it's
China's
not anywhere
numbers.
near us.
It can't be anywhere near us.
No, I mean it's not anywhere near us. Their country doesn't even make any money. So.
But how is it that we could possibly be thinking that anybody's of danger to us at this moment? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are we using? What conversation are we using to justify this size of a budget? You know?
I say we are not necessarily using 9/11 to justify it, but the boogeyman of terrorism is what got us here, with the idea that the terrorists will attack us at home, which was the event of 9/11. You know, also you could argue about, in the conspiracy episode, we're going to talk more about, some stuff with Kennedy and this idea that the Cubans were going to steal a plane.
Heard about that.
Yeah, so
I think that Operation Northwoods, I
believe, is what it was called. Yes.
Heard about that.
Joint Chiefs of Staff signed off on. Anyways, we're going to talk a little more in the conspiracy episode about that, but that's one of those really real conspiracies. Yeah. Well, no, it
is
was
a conspiracy. It's a proven
conspiracy. And it's been proven true.
Yeah.
Conspiracy does not mean false.
That's why I use the word false narrative, or alternative narrative, bro. It's an alternative narrative.
Yeah.
But nonetheless. Yeah, I think it goes further than that, though. I think it goes further than that, but I've seen overwhelming evidence that it's the Republican Party.
Spending by the military-industrial complex that's been lobbied into our politics is definitely a factor for sure.
Correlation between the two. They got the NRA. Okay, they're into more policing. They're into more military, which is, again, we made the analogy of world policing at this point. I was even saying, that's funny, man. It was just like, we just sit on the UN and all that stuff, too. It's like we all got together. We're like, all right, who wants to be on the winning side?
All right. No, it's more like we've won. Okay, everybody agrees. We've won. Okay. So who's going to play by our rules? You?
Right.
All right, come to the table.
Yeah.
You're going to think about it? Back up a little bit. Go into this oil league or something. We'll think about it.
You wait till you see what we got.
Just wait.
In
Grow
store.
up a little bit.
Wait till you see what happens to your buddies Vietnam. Well, what happened to us in Vietnam, but still what we tried to do.
So I want to kind of deconstruct what you said there. You basically said that, it's like the reason we spend so much money on our military and militarize our police and do all these things and everything's like more weapons, more guns, more bombs, more things. Is, the Republican Party is funded by that? I mean, I would say that politics is funded by that.
Okay, I buy into that.
I think that it is true that it centers on certain senators and certain
I hate
groups.
to hit you with the Trump card, but I would also say it's really.
I just want information.
It's Americans. No, but it's an American complex. Like you said, that was the one thing that I told Mac about. It's about control. Let's not get twisted. It's definitely about control. But just as I tend to always think, it's more about the money, right? Yeah. The problem is that we also profit from war. Like, we make money from doing all this stuff.
Which is bad incentives.
Bad incentives, man. Mac, always talk, you gotta get the incentives right, man. And these are terrible incentives. We actually... Okay, so I'm gonna lay out my whole theory here. After doing all this research and after looking into this shit, I'm like, okay. America is the world mob. Okay? And so we're just like you said, we were big chilling up until World War II, and then we were like, oh shit, like war is popping out here. Like, we really need to get good at this. And so we threw everything we had at like our ability to make war. And then we came out the other side and was like, oh shit, we're really good at this. You know, it's like you said, it's like getting into basketball and you're like, oh damn, I'm LeBron James. And you're like, you know what I mean?
So in this analogy, America getting into building weapons is like the LeBron. It's like LeBron just got a basketball. Like, whoa! What?
Played a couple games and realized, like, dang, this is cool. I can dunk. You know, I didn't realize. Other kids, right? And so we're like, what can we do with this? And so we start, playing out basketball out here. And we're like, hey, let's get our hands dirty in this little war over here. We got all these guns and stuff. Let's keep doing this. Worked for us. Because you got to remember, not only did it win World War II for us, right? That was great. We won.
Yeah, we got on the right team.
But we also got a huge economic rise from that, too. Like, this is an old industrial, like a whole new industrial...
It saved the country.
Right.
It saved the country.
Right. And so, I think, like Max said, people learn from those things. We buy into those types of incentives, and we're like, hey, I think we could do this. And then you see nothing but a constant, like, us shaking the rest of the world down. We're like, we're the big guys, and we're like, hey, you looking kind of unprotected over there, Panama, or Cuba, or whoever that we want to, like, Iraq. What y'all doing over there? Yeah. Careful with my oil over there, boys.
I think mob is a great example.
It is.
Because if you go with mob, then you can say something like they have legitimate businesses. Mm-hmm. Like, we have legitimate interests overseas, where it's like you can make the argument that like this thing that we're doing, that this other country is doing to us, is something that we need so we can have the information. Like, if you want to say, take for example, American spies in Russia. If Russia's got spies in America, then I think we can agree that like American spies in Russia.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you who should control
on the chessboard. You know, but I think what you're saying is just that it only makes sense to, in their minds, it only makes sense to continually to play out that little game, if you will. Like you said, it's like about the control and the money. Mm-hmm. But I mean, at a certain point, how much money do you really need? I think it really is more about like the power underneath, like the psychological stuff, you know? Like, I think that's really what it stems from. Because at a certain point, you have so much money, it's like you're not really doing anything with it. Because it's not like they're going to be Bill Gates and, coming out here with I'm going to fix diseases or whatever. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. I think that's where we constantly underestimate human greed. You know, and our ability to just, because it's not even greed. We're progressive machines, so we're not designed to look it back and say, "Oh, look at all the things I've done. I think I can chill back and relax now." We're just like, "Yep, got to get to the next level. Oh, I'm bored. What'd you do? I got $10 billion, but like, still got to do something. Got to conquer something. Got to continue to strive."
Hey, America, how much money are you spending on your army? Oh, couple $100 billion. They're like, yeah? And you're like, yeah, every year. Yeah, like, it's going to be more next time.
It's crazy. And it's more next
Think about it, dude. Just wrap your head around the numbers that are in hundreds of billions. Yeah. And, we kind of didn't gloss over it. We said we were a third of all of this. We're a ton, but there's just that number. That number's so big.
Too much.
It's so big that it's really inconceivable to the human imagination. Like, you can't picture $650 billion.
Yeah.
Like, you can only, like, you just think, well, that's basically like having an infinite amount of money, really. To me, that's what that seems like.
Yeah.
When you say 650 billion,
Yeah, you
could
hit
have
the
said
infinite
800 billion, and to me, those are exactly
My
the same.
first conversation is, what the fuck? I'm paying way too many taxes.
Way too many
I'm
taxes.
paying, like, if you have that
just
much
the
money, if y'all have that much money that you can put to one thing, we ain't even talked about anything else in our country at all. All right. I'm scared to see. I need to break down our budget. I have not looked at our budget.
Let me hit you with a quick fact. DARPA, Boston Dynamics, DARPA, that whole category of research in that budget gets like, it's hundreds of millions.
Yeah,
I want to say 600, or I don't know. It's I don't have the number in front of me, but it's hundreds of millions.
Well,
and it's like every year we're giving this research program that's making robots that can deliver packages. I keep using this. I gotta stop that. Let's call that like it is.
Plus, you have to remember, some people are just listening, so you just gotta say.
Yeah, some people are just
if you're
listening.
gonna do it, then say
you're just saying.
I could just say it in my voice like,
Packages.
Packages. You know what I'm saying? Talk out the side of my mouth. But I'm saying, like,
where's your package delivered?
We're giving these researchers, this one group of researchers, hundreds of millions in this defense budget that's hundreds of billions. Bro, and like, think about how many military-industrial complex groups are just like, oh yeah, give me all that.
Yeah.
Give me all that. We're gonna send some of it back at you, lobbyists.
Well,
Give some candy out to the senators. Ooh, you want to ride in a tank?
Yeah. It's like Iron Man in that episode of Iron Man when he's got them all out there and he's like, oh. All like,
that was really cool.
Let's go have dinner now.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, and this is something that I also was going to branch the conversation off onto later, but same thing. It's not just money, though. Like you said, it's not just money kickbacks, that it's technology. Remember, we also gave you cell phones, though. And remember, it's like, but you wouldn't have satellites if it wasn't for us. And we sent you to the moon. And so, like, war's not all bad, right? You like your technology gadgets, don't you? Well, we had to kill a couple million people to get you those gadgets, you know? We got to go over into Afghanistan and lock them all down if you want your gadgets.
Yeah. I mean...
So
a lot of people don't know this, but the original technology for the Xbox Kinect, when it first came out, was purchased from the Israeli military.
Mm-hmm.
It was like some sort of new digital optics thing that they were working with, and Microsoft came in and was like, hey, we're going to buy that from you.
Yeah.
So private American companies have so much money that they can go to other countries' militaries and purchase things from them to make consumer products here.
But
they have the right to give money and be a human. Like, corporations, you know, being able to do all these things is crazy.
Corporations?
Yeah, like, that's
humans?
a corporation, like Xbox. Like, you're saying, like, they can just buy this from
the
Israeli
military group. Yeah, that is wild. That is kind of wild that they can just buy, like, that you can just sell.
It was like developed by them.
Military-ish style stuff back and forth between private companies is kind of weird.
But like you said, that's kind of how it like disseminates
But
down. But
that's
it's not like Halliburton's coming down and being like, "Hey, AT&T, we came up with these awesome cell phones for you guys." Mm-hmm. Like AT&T had to come in and be like, "Hey, that's some interesting stuff you got over there.
Yeah,
could we? How much you guys want for that?"
Actually, AT&T came up with the transistor. I was reading about this, which was interesting though. But that's my point. How ass backwards are we though? That first we think about how can we kill you, and then, you know, any alternative uses we can find for the things that we use to kill you. Then we'll, like you said, like, rather than design things specifically for the police that help them do their job the best of their ability, we're like, here's some old war machines that we have laying around. Like, can you put those to good use in your civil society?
It's like basically they look at them and they were like, "Hey, you guys use guns, right?
Do you need to?
You guys have guns. Well, we have all these extra guns and shit laying around. You guys want to use our guns?"
Do you need to upgrade your killing machine? Is your killing getting a little loose? You gotta tighten it up a bit. come to the murder store, aka the U.S. government.
You know, back in the day, they had, like, cops used to use revolvers and shit. They only had, like, 6 bullets.
Right.
Now dudes, like, have not only shotguns, but also M4s in their center console.
Bro, I be seeing them on a motorcycle.
Full laptops. I can't have a cell phone, but you can have a full laptop in your car.
Oh yeah,
like
pointed
in a
at
cage
you.
with a swivel TV mount in that bitch.
Just waiting for somebody to drive by and blow smoke out their window. Ooh, got him.
Dude in a motorcycle with an M4.
With the M4 strapped to the back so you can pull it out when he's still riding.
Come out like the Terminator, just I don't get it. It's too much.
Like, when are you going to be having some sort of high-speed chase through downtown where you're going to need to shoot your M4 while also chasing them?
And I used to have to fight. It's like we watched too many movies. It's like we literally watched too many movies. I had to fight. I would fight with the Brits all the time in Afghanistan, right? And so I have a unique perspective on this whole conversation, by the way, because I was in the military, and I worked as a contractor, right? So I've seen not the top level of any of these things. I was just like a little worker bee dude. But my point is, I've been in these establishments. It's not like I haven't been around them. Totally lost my whole point in the explanation of how I know the military-industrial complex.
You just wanted to humble brag real quick.
Real quick, I was a part of this killing war machine. Honestly, dude.
Just so you know, you fought with the Brits. You fought with the Brits.
Oh, the Brits.
Yeah. You fought with the Brits.
As I did do this conversation and study, I actually felt really ashamed of myself for being a part of all this, if I'm being honest. But anyways, I profited off of all of this as well. So I'm talking to the Brits, and they're like, why don't you just get rid of the guns, And I'm like, bruh. It's easy to say you don't have any guns, It's like, and I wish I knew something that, I'm like, why don't you just get rid of all the cameras? It's like, you need those cameras. You're used to those cameras. That's your CCTV or whatever. You fuck with that.
Yeah.
So
there's more guns than people in America. So I mean, it's like it's at a point where you can't just go get them all.
I would say, hey, we only have a country because we have guns, buddy.
If we didn't have guns, if we were like you guys, we would be like you guys.
Like exactly, I'd still be fighting with you.
Yeah.
So, like,
I know my history.
We'd all be stabbing each other.
I know my history. I saw Mel Gibson run through the forest and kill those men with all those guns, okay? I saw it happen. Mel Gibson did it, okay? Like, if you've ever learned a lesson, watch Mel Gibson kill those British people. It's very informative.
But they would make good points. And I started looking at their culture and stuff, and they love to fight, though. And that's one thing. They fight over everything over there. Like, they'll just fight the shit out of you. And I'm like, that makes sense. I was like, I can't fight you in America. I don't know what I try to fight you. You shoot me. Your homie shoot me. Somebody will shoot me.
Get jumped.
Right? I beat you. You gonna come back and shoot me. It's like,
yeah, that happens. That happens a lot. Where it's like they previously had argued.
You can't just fight like
that. I watch enough First 48 to where I am absolute legend.
Catch a knee to the neck. Fuck around, fight with motherfuckers out here. They come catch you 6-10 years later and put their knee on your neck in front of everybody and fuck you up. So my point is, you can't fight out here like that. But they do it in England. But then they also, if you look at their cop killings compared to the U.S., it's like dramatically. I think they had like 1 last year or something ridiculous, Because their cops don't carry guns either.
You have to beat a guy for a long time with a billy club.
Facts.
Like, that's a workout.
Americans will figure out some way. But my point is, force meets force. And it constantly has to catch up to itself, and that's the problem. I think that we've lost control of it in the sense that why we have all this money? Well, because we fought all these wars. Well, what are you gonna do with all this money? Might as well put it back into the wars.
That worked out the first time,
right? More money into the war.
That's what got us here.
Yeah, what'd you get more of? Money? What you gonna do? War, I guess. And it's like it's all on top of each other. Same thing. It's like, well, how come your cops need pistols? Well, the streets got pistols. Okay, well, why you guys need machine guns now? Well, the streets got machine guns, And it's like, well, why y'all need MRAPs? Well,
we had to get the jump on them for once.
We're like, well, sometimes
we finally caught up.
And they probably bring him out too. It's like, we got to serve a warrant on this guy, and we think he's dangerous.
Bro,
bring the MRAP.
I watch videos. They bring him out all the time.
Of course they do.
Out
Wouldn't you? If you were sitting, think about it. 2 men in their late 20s who are in that kind of work, who you were both part of. Like, don't you imagine if they had to go do something, if they could make a good argument for taking it out?
Oh, yeah.
I would take it out. I'd be like, oh yeah, you want to take the MRAP, dude?
I'd be like, bro, let's get
the MRAP. Yeah,
I got this
the
thing.
captain won't be mad. This is sufficient enough.
Hold on, let me see if I can pull up one of the ones where I was watching. These cats had me dying, bro. So funny.
I have a good source too I'd like to bring up that's it's basically, I was watching a news clip and it showed the average deaths of police killing civilians, and it's like per some number of million. You know, it's like per 10 million or something, or per something, and it was like ours was like 33 point something, and everybody else was like single digits basically. It's like we were there's like 12 or something. There was like a couple double digits, but like it was like we were like significantly more than everybody else. Yeah, and I was like, but
just,
I mean, it's because we have a lot of guns.
It's the force meets force.
It's not necessarily that we have a lot of
underline that.
There's other.
The fact that our country has
crime,
much
all
more
these
people than
other
almost
things,
any
yeah.
other country on the planet.
We have more police, more prisons, more prison population, more privatized prisons.
But again,
People
all
profit-
things
profiting
people are
off of
profiting off.
Profiting off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
People are
I don't
making
like that.
So that's the
so
weird
bad.
part
Like, those are
about
the
that
those
shit.
are the few things that you should
That
profit off of.
Yes, right. It's like,
And
this,
if you so like I could get down with the
enslaving of
prisons
people.
if the prisons
Yes.
were actual rehabilitation centers and not punishment centers, then I could fuck with you getting profits, because then that would incentivize you to do good things. But because your whole system is to fuck people over and get them into this like system where they just can't escape, then that's bad incentives. Now I don't want you profiting. Like, as long as you're going to be doing that, then I want you guys to be like losing money constantly, honestly, so that way you can go out of business.
Think about this, fellas. Think about
this.
this. I'm about to paradigm shift this perfectly. So it's like, think about the fact that if it wasn't for that constitutional amendment, right, abolishing slavery and saying that slavery is still okay under certain circumstances, then these people would have never realized that all they had to do to profit off of slavery was to just be the people that are punishing the criminals. You just go, it was like a back door, racist back door to profits. All they said with that constitutional amendment was, okay, you're free, but if we catch you doing something wrong, you're back in.
Okay, so time out though.
And we're going to profit off of it.
Mean that there was no jail or prison system before this?
No, that's, I mean,
privatized prisons is the point. It's privatized capitalist prisons where they're making money.
So,
well, I mean,
but that birthed from the 13th Amendment, is what I'm saying. Like,
no, that's what I'm saying. There were people like the way that you were talking about a fire department and where you like, oh, you can't just set up a sign and make a fire department. That's kind of how it was back then. Like, you were like a sheriff and stuff. Like, people forget, like, this is back in like the Wild West and shit. So like, the town had to be like, yeah, we think he'd be a good sheriff, but other than that, it wasn't like you were like set up by the city's government or anything. You were just like a guy that everybody thought would be a good sheriff.
And they just kind of like, yeah, that's the guy.
And as long as you kept catching the bad guys, then they kept you in and stuff like that. But like he said, once they got rid of the 13th Amendment made it to where as long as there was something that you could charge them like a crime and then put them into the system, then you could make money off of them, and that way,
and that
incentivizes not only catching more people doing crimes, but making more things crimes, so that way you could catch more people.
It's profits off of slavery. They've been profiting off of slavery since they abolished slavery,
and before then,
and way before. Yeah.
I mean, it's a barbaric practice that goes back since the dawn of time. So let's not act like
that's true though. Like it's not. I mean,
just created
not just slavery, but also having to put a motherfucker by himself.
Put him by like isolation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like before there were like prisons and jails and stuff. Like you still like if we were cavemen and you were flipping the fuck out, I'd crack you across the dome and I'd put you somewhere by yourself so that way you wouldn't kill all my friends.
You would exile them.
Yeah. Like I'd be like, here, get this thing at it, or
trap
them in a cave or whatever.
It's just like we don't know what to deal with you, man. Like you
exile was a real.
Get out of our
thing.
civilization, man. Like we can't.
That's what
I think Scientology and the Mormons still do it.
Yeah, back
Yeah.
they're like, hey, you gotta get out of our church, bro. We can't fucking.
I got you with that one back.
Listen.
Yeah, Scientology and the Mormons are both they like to exile.
Yeah, they're quick to ostracize you.
Oh, Amish, come on,
That's
Amish
true.
is- Amish
get your head in the game. We didn't even mention the Amish.
It's facts. But I mean, honestly, I would fuck with exile heavy. I would just be like, look, just get the fuck out of here. Just leave us alone. I don't care. Let's go somewhere.
I believe crimes deserve punishment, but this idea that like not only is our military profiting off of fear in the sense that we're going and fighting these wars that have no justification and engaged in these conflicts where we're spending all these discharging all these weapons and bombs and doing all this money, and it's like, why we're spending all this money, these hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's like, why does the private sector need to profit off of this so greatly? Because think about all that government; those are all government funds. Those are taxpayer dollars that are all. Call myself doing the air quotes. Those are all taxpayer dollars that we pay. That are being directly funneled into profiting off of the death of other human beings, and then it goes on and on and on. Where in the budget are they paying these private prison people? Like, is that coming from taxpayer dollars? I mean, it sounds like it is when a judge sentences somebody and says you're going to this facility.
Well, ultimately, and that's my problem is like the fact that that's why I'm so for free markets. You see what I'm saying? Like the government in itself creates a lever point to manipulate the system. You know what I mean? It's like you said, where did this whole complex get funded from? I'm not creating a paramilitary group out there. Like, I doubt that there's some militia in Florida that's funding these private corporate, right? Like we just said, these private corporations only exist. Me and Mac talk about this a lot with incentives. It's incentives, right? Like, humans are incentive-driven creatures, right? Why are you gonna climb that tree right there? Because there's fruit up there. You don't just climb. Some of you do, but even if it's like, because I want to see the nice view or whatever, but you do things inherently to get something, and so you always gotta question, like, where is there an ability to get something? And so that's what happens is these military complex, like, we created this machine, this monster during World War II, and then we didn't know what to do with it afterwards, and everybody started getting in on the pie. They were like, yo, I got a company. Like, oh, shit, I see y'all raking in billions over there. He's like, Jimbo comes up, he's like, yo, it's a new oil fucking market, man. There's hella money to be made making bombs. And they're like, say word. And then here they go. They're, manufacturing. And we seen it in the military ourselves, bro. We got new gear. Why we switch BUs all the time? Why is that always like we switch
different contracts? Their contract's up. Here's a new contract.
Some other guy comes in, is like, trust me, you need this. It's so much better, and it's gonna let you be more yada yada yada.
Gives them a better price.
And then they toss all that other shit, and then they put all new shit, and it's just like this constant. Where do the civilian people come from? These military contracts, where we're, like you said, paying our tax-paying dollars. This actually funding this. Mm-hmm. It's not anything or anybody else. They're literally working together. Why do you sell what you sell? Because the military buys it. Why do you buy what you buy? Because they sell it to me. And they just, with your money though. Not their own money, with your money. You throwing money up here and they go,
yeah, and I always like to make that point and just remind everybody that the government has no money of its own. So even when, like, the Federal Reserve goes out and, like, prints money, and a lot of people think, like, oh, well, that's like the government making its own money, and it's like, no, that's not how it works, you see, because the Federal Reserve isn't the government technically. It loans the government the money, and then the government pays that with your tax dollars. So it's your money. And also, when they print it and they give it to you, it hyperinflates your currency, which is silently stealing it. It's a silent tax. So it's anything that the government is doing is your money.
Yeah.
So I just want people to remember that, because that's very important when you get them to, like, oh, I don't like the idea of paying for that. You know what I mean? Like you said, John,
it's
I
your
don't like
money.
the idea of paying for these other people to profit off of the death of other human beings. I wouldn't do that if I had a choice.
I don't like them profiting.
Yeah.
I don't like them
And
profiting
that-
off of
and that is
slavery.
where-
That's I don't.
And
No,
that's where
thank
the
you.
problem
Do
of the
that
government
before.
comes in, because the government, like you said, it's a lever for these private companies. Because in the government's infinite wisdom, in their attempts to save us from monopolies, they
That's
said
funny.
that they would then be the monopoly because they are such upstanding people.
They're wise.
They're
wise.
so wise.
beyond-
Why would they have been elected otherwise?
Especially for us averagely intelligent dudes.
Right,
We can
right.
never
There,
comprehend
we
something.
could
It's
averagely intelligent dudes could never
Never
comprehend the,
comprehend
the
the
sort
need
of
for
dangerous
missiles
shit.
and
And like you'll hear that argument from people. They'll be like, "Well, listen, if you knew what they knew,
you would know why we need to do it. It's like, stop, bro. You know what they know. You know.
Yeah, that's what's
let me show you
implied.
what they know.
Yeah.
We're beating everybody times 13 of just spending and outrunning these motherfuckers. We took that arms race to a whole nother level.
Yep.
Damn, I want
Yeah.
to.
And
I think
the,
when
God help the.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, God help the poor son of a bitch that attacks us. I mean, assuming
Oh,
it's
yeah.
real. Assuming
No,
it's
at this
real if
point-
it happens. God
Well,
help
that's
the
why
son
I
of a
think
bitch
all of
that
these
hits
attacks
America.
on
That
America
could
are
be
just
crazy.
false flags. Because, like you said, like who, even when we killed Soleimani or whatever that guy's name was from Iran, and Iran was like, they postured, they sent some missiles out and like didn't really attack us with them. They were just like, hey, we fired some missiles, don't do that again. And, but like, they didn't shoot them at us here. They shot those missiles at Americans in Iran or in the Middle East. They're not shooting missiles at us. Like, are you fucking crazy? That's
Yeah.
just asking.
Well, I think
that's
it's-
like
I think
asking. That's
talking-
like throwing a rock at the back of the bully's head while he's beating up somebody else or something like that. It's like, hey, stop that!
That's what
And
I
then
do
he turns
think-
around and he looks at you and it's all slow mo and you're like, oh. And then
I do
immediately
think-
you realize that it was a bad idea.
I do think that's a bit of a blanket to say, like, that the military, or not the military, but the United States government's behind false flags, like in general. I would say
Well,
that.
I mean, if
like,
it is a false flag, then that would mean that they have to be.
Yes, I get that point. Like
responsible
that's
for it.
kind of the point I'm trying to make. Is whatever I name them, it doesn't matter what I'm naming them. It's just false. That's the idea. So, the idea is like if these things are real, and I think they are, these mass casualty events, whatever you want to call them, the bombings, the shootings, all that stuff, whatever you want to call them, if they are real, right, or at least some of them are, if you want to agree to that.
Well, hold on. Let me find out what you mean by like real. Do you mean real as in?
I mean, real
done-
as in the people that are doing them for the intentions that are stated thereafter, whether it's manifesto, whether it's YouTube videos, that none of that is fabricated in those specific instances, like saying real. God, I gotta tape my hands down so I don't do air fingers. Sorry. Jeez, this is gonna be the podcast where I learn.
Learn about it.
It'll be
You're
the
gonna
first-
make it
the last
happen
one I
today?
ever do it.
Okay, all right.
Well, he's gonna be
But-
editing it too, so he's gonna watch it back.
That's right. I'm gonna see it. and just like chop my hands off and fucking edit. All right.
Okay. It makes me want to pick it up.
But my point being is that if these events are real, or if at least some of them are, and real is in the sense that they can be proven and that their proven stories are true, right? Then why, maybe some of them could be false flags, and but we would have to look at each case individually. I think to it's not blanket one or the other. I don't think it's blanket that they're all naturally occurring phenomena. I think some of them are non-naturally occurring. Whether they are after effects or repercussions is one argument, but to say that they were maybe manufactured, I could buy into some of them could possibly have been manufactured.
Absolutely.
Some of them are also directly related to, if you want to look at like gun running or something, like you can stretch a little bit, but the point I'm trying to make is like some of them happened like they happened.
Yeah.
Some of them were, and some of them have enough evidence to back that up. Now, if you want to say, like, that Sandy Hook, for example, that there are some questions that haven't been answered and some stuff that is interesting if you look into it, I'll agree. I haven't super looked into it.
Sandy
I mean,
Hook.
I've listened to people
haven't
talk about it, but I haven't super got into it.
haven't.
But
But
what
how
and
would that fall? I wasn't talking about stuff like that. Like, how would that be a false flag for the military?
It would be a false flag
for
that? Because the military-industrial complex would profit in some way. If you think that, or the opposite. It depends on the government. So if the government wants, let's say the government wants to, get rid of assault weapons in civilian hands, so that the military-industrial complex could then have a dominant force over Americans, you can make that argument that the government could have done Sandy Hook and try to get weapons banned a certain way, to get the public to sway a certain way. It was done during a Democratic president, so maybe the idea is let's get rid of their guns, and then the Republicans are like, it's fake. I'm saying that's not the best example of a false flag, but...
I get what you're saying. Yeah, no, I was talking more along the lines of 9/11, where they could just... Because that leans more towards the, control aspect that you were talking about of it, but I think it is more probably on the money side of it. And so if it's the money side of it, I don't see how they profit from us not having guns, whereas if they false flag as an attack from outside, like a exterior enemy, is the ones that I really think are false flags, because then that gives them an excuse to go out into the world and do shit far away from us that we don't know what it is.
And the only knowledge that we get back is what they want us to have.
And they're the ones that are selling the stuff to them. So that's how I see it.
Well, because I've always thought about that too in cons and stuff. That's what you always say. You always spin them tales of faraway lands. You know what I mean? Places that they're unfamiliar with. And you lead me into my best point about false flags or anything. The one thing we have to admit and come to grips with in this whole scenario is that we're all complicit in this. There's one thing I think that is we were building on as a point when we said our taxes, right? And that's our money.
That's one thing that unites us as American citizens, for sure.
It's our money.
For sure.
And so we are just as, the government's not just doing this magically, right? We're not, like you said, if we had the choice, we wouldn't do it ourselves. So we don't have direct influence. But it's that saying, evil men prevail because good men stand by and do nothing, right? That's what happens. So what my ultimate point is here is they use that and they trigger our own fear against us. Right. They whip us up into some type of fear, always. It's always the same thing. It's the drugs. The drugs are in your communities. They're in your lives. They're in your bedrooms.
I can see, dude, we need
Coke.
to go.
It's like a gut.
I'm gonna go.
It was also terrorists.
Look at this
Jesus
thing.
Christ!
It was
also
you.
That's funny. Drugs, terrorism. Don't forget Muslims was a big one. Muslims was whoa, they're scary. They're hiding under your bed with a scimitar.
It's black people. It's the KKK.
Yep.
It's
communists.
It's coronavirus. It's
Antifa. Now it's Antifa. Antifa's under your bed with a baseball bat.
A million boogie monsters out here that they try and yellow cake. Fucking.
They'll come out with a napkin. It's a special CIA napkin.
Hit you with some.
This is some highly radioactive uranium.
And you think we would know though? Like you said, we've caught them so many times, and we just debunked it so many times, and we figured it out so many times. And in retrospect, we're always like, well, that seemed uncalled for. And it's like, yeah, it was. The Vietnam War goes on for 4 years, and you're like, well. We didn't want that. No, you didn't, but you just let them whip you up, and then you're just like, please, yes, protect us. And so it's like...
think about how long Iraq's been going on. It's one of those ones where there was we had the Gulf War, but it was like an intervention, I don't remember exactly what militarily it was called, but it was the Gulf War didn't last a long time. It just happened, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it was one of the shortest... in
occupations
history in American history. The Gulf War was a matter of weeks.
Yeah, and then the next one's Iraq. I mean, we had other small incidents, but it's Iraq was the major one. Yeah. And it was we went there and we fucking stayed there. Yeah. We went there or we built some homes because we lived in some of them homes.
And then everybody pretended we left. And then these boogeymen, they invented a new boogeyman, ISIS, came around. And then they said, well, it's because we left. And it's but we're not, but we're still there. So how can you say that it was because we left? Yeah.
Because we gave them certain sections. We were like,
they were like,
go.
well, we made a smaller footprint. Yeah. And it's like, well, so we didn't really leave, and now we're finding out that
I'm trying to
there's some other fucked up shit going on there too.
And think about the smaller footprint idea too, because it's like, okay, we might have pulled out of some small bases in some cities that we were occupying, right? And then pulled back into like Baghdad and shit, but we like never left, man. If we never left and we still have weapons and we still have soldiers there, our force is there. You can't attack.
Yeah, I mean, shit. We have fucking people in Germany still. People in Germany. People in Korea.
Everywhere. That's another good map to
Yeah, it's like, why are there American citizens, just like
Yeah.
American military service people in Germany? Why? Why is
They're
that? Germany had their
everywhere.
own slice of a fucking pie.
Well, it's because you see, America's the world police, and we want a strategic placement on Russia and China and Iran. So we in the Middle East, all these little sections, all these little ideas are just like, well, we gotta have base. We gotta have a base in Azerbaijan.
It's just
we gotta have a base in Cyprus. We better have a base in the Djibouti.
Djibouti.
It's crazy, bro.
Dude, I have to put this. I have to put this source in here. Hold on.
Also, I would like to this source is what's his name? I think it was FDR's farewell address to the American people when he was dying and he was giving up being president. And he was
Okay,
like,
what?
the military-industrial complex is going to be the worst thing ever.
You know what I don't like about you right now? Is you only want to talk about the source you want to bring up when I'm about to bring up my own source. And then you're like, you know what? My bad. You know what?
You just reminded me. Because I never punched in and was like, but listen to FDR talking about, because I didn't want to break up the great flow. There was a tremendous flow. Oh my God, the flow we had. Biggest flow. Sorry, that was my Trump.
Level flow. Well, okay. So
nothing like a flow.
I'm gonna pop
like
up with my source
had.
because my source is also a little paradigm shift on this conversation, gentlemen. Because I came across this video, so I'm just gonna go ahead and like throw this video at it because it hits a couple of my agendas. This is an unintended consequence of this thing that I didn't quite think about until I started looking into this whole idea. And you know, it's like dollars. You know, you're like, dollars suck, right? But it's like, what's the one thing our capitalistic society never really even thinks about, too? It's not just dollars that fucks us.
This video is...
Sit back, boys and girls. We got us a little viewership.
Got a 9-minute and 46-second video. I'm excited. Bring me the news.
I don't think we have to watch the whole thing, but we about to watch some of it.
This is perfect because I got to do a little bit of research on my end, but I'm listening and watching.
Well, it does tie into what we were talking about a second ago about
the single most polluting industry in the world.
How we don't leave.
Specifically, the U.S. military, because the U.S. war machine currently has a yearly budget of over $700 billion, which dwarfs the military spending of the next 8 countries combined in 2018. The U.S. military is a behemoth, and the environmental consequences of its massive size and global presence are equally immense.
Environmental
Indeed,
concerns.
If the American military was a country, it would rank 47th, right in between Peru and Portugal for the highest global greenhouse gas emissions.
If just the military was a country.
Based on military fuel use. Despite this, we're rarely exposed to the idea of the U.S. military-industrial complex as a possible contributor to climate change. Instead, individual actions like taking shorter showers or composting food waste seem to be the primary push of the environmental movement. So, the big question...
I gotta pause right here.
That's a pretty good point.
Facts. But I have to always laugh because this is true. The same thing that they try to tell me about this coronavirus. They're like, it's not the protests. It has nothing to do with these 100,000 people protests. It's because we opened Walmart too soon. You know what I mean? Same thing. Like you said, an environmental concern. It's like, it's not the military. No. It's you. You use too many plastic.
Yeah. I think it's definitely more salient in this exact point that they're making, that the military-industrial complex and the U.S. military, their impact on the environment is much greater.
Great.
Than
we always point to the corporations, but I never thought about this side of the military as well.
You got to think about the military as a corporation, my man.
Facts.
And ultimately, what what are the connections between militarism and climate?
Look at all that gear they got on. I bought all that. I used to
US military is
shit used to sit in my house. I did nothing with that.
has continuously piled money into the Department of Defense ever since the 1980s Reagan-era push for military spending transformed the world's biggest lender into the biggest debtor. A recently approved defense budget of $738 billion for the 2020 fiscal year only cements this lust for U.S. military growth around the globe. And to be clear, the U.S. military is a global entity. It has established roughly 800 military bases in 80 countries around the world.
Bro.
Unconfirmed lily pads. I told you there was one in Djibouti. I see it.
Unconfirmed.
Unconfirmed lily pads.
Hey, we can neither confirm nor deny if there's one in Djibouti or not. But look at that.
Let's also say this.
There's one smack dab in the middle of China.
Yeah, facts. Secretly working in India.
They ain't even showing us the ones that are on American soil, my guy.
Bro,
we got underground,
seriously.
super subterranean mega shits all over this mofo.
No, this is not the ones you need to even worry about. They made the most scary ones in the most easy color to recognize. The lily pads, bro. The fewer than 200 personnel. That's where niggas is getting fucked up, okay? People is getting murdered where those are fewer than 200 personnel. That's fucking goddamn SEAL Team 6 in there obliterating entire fucking villages of people, all right? I promise you. I just say it. I just know it. Anyways, point was, this points to our case we were saying, we not only do we go, we just never leave. It's like once we get in you, we're like herpes, bro. Once you get in you, we never.
We're a disease, and that doesn't even really show like all the shit that we did in South America and Central America. Like if that showed like actions that we've taken, like we might not have a base in some of these countries that don't have lily pads, but like not including wars, like just actions that we've taken secretly, CIA, shit like that, things that have come out. I mean, just in South America alone, man, all those little lily pads. God, jeez, I'm gonna cut these off. All these little lily pads wouldn't be lily pads, man. It's just like we would have giant bases there if they had succeeded.
I mean, it's true.
We try regime changes. We try murder tactics, running drugs, buying drugs, setting up cartels.
They tried to blow up Castro with a goddamn cigar bomb.
Bro.
Like,
we tried to
literally,
we tried to go to war with the Cubans.
It's true. And so, wait till this next. Wait till the comparison. The comparison always puts it in context.
All other countries combined have established roughly 70 foreign bases. So,
wait, what?
Wait a second.
Wait, what?
What you're telling me?
Wait, what? So not only are we outspending everybody grossly, but we're also just out here with our hands on motherfuckers. Like this, he said that's combined. That's 70 bases combined. Okay, not just like all other nations. I don't know what he meant by all other nations, but I hope he don't mean the rest of the world.
The U.S. through countries combined define author of base nation. To put that in perspective, all other countries combined have established roughly 70 foreign bases.
Gotta check on that.
The U.S. military is gargantuan.
Gotta check on that.
That machine, they need, well, fuel. From 2001 to 2017, the U.S. military emitted an estimated 1.2 billion metric tons of CO2 equivalent,
it's nasty,
according to the Watson Institute for International and Public Affairs. That's the same as putting an additional 257 million cars, or roughly the amount of passenger cars currently in operation, on the road in the U.S. for a whole year. From Humvees running at 4 miles per gallon or gas-guzzling F-22 fighter jets, the machines of war that the Department of Defense purchases and maintains require a lot of fuel, in the realm of 85 million barrels of fuel in 2017. But the U.S. military pollution does not stop and end at emissions. The military has blazed a sharp trail of environmental and chemical pollution across the world.
Oh, this was fascinating.
1,000 contaminated sites, according to a Newsweek interview with the former head of environmental.
We know this, John.
The Pentagon. 100.
Oh yeah.
We know this.
Wait, pause for a second. What'd you do with that? What'd you do with that oil bottle? What'd you do with that oil bottle, specialist? How much oil went into that turbine or whatever, what the fuck, what's the oil with the little gear boxes that are sitting there, you know what I'm saying? My man, he was a TI, he knows what I'm talking about.
Bro. I was like, we know about this. I'll be like,
I'm just saying, like,
what happened to that five?
I don't know what happened to those oil cans.
Huh?
I don't know what happened to them.
What happened to all that hydraulic fluid y'all used to fill up that ag poop? What?
But
That should be all over the goddamn fucking flight line and shit. Dog, I know about this. Hey, burning trash, bro. I'm telling you, I know about this.
bro, when you see a fucking concrete T barrier and it's just got a wet spot, and it's like, oh, I smell it. I know what's over there. That's not pee-pee.
Not pee-pee.
Military cases.
Why are we all doing that?
1,300.
No, I'm not saying that it was like everybody was
Why?
doing it. It's just
Yeah, why were you pouring out the oil?
it's when there's no way to save. Like I can't, like you're not in the military. You got a can of oil, you use it, and if you don't use it, you go to the reclamation point, and it's like an environmental thing to save all the oil, recycling, all that stuff, bro. You empty your can, then the can has not a whole bunch of residue, and it's cleanly recycled. All that shit's like normal in every airfield, but in an airfield in Iraq, no,
But
they just don't have a
sometimes-
reclamation point.
I was gonna
They're
say,
just-
but
like
some-
maybe you have a janky one where you're like saving them and it's all on a smelly thing that's
tried
like
our
real
best.
dangerous or something. We tried our best.
We tried our best.
But
We
there
didn't
was
just throw
always-
it all over the ground and shit. You know what I mean? We tried our best.
But I'm saying like,
I'm not
at
talking
our
about like you guys.
no, I mean I'm just saying like people in general. It's just like that.
yeah, people in general.
But
Definitely, if you had this much left, I mean, it's Iraq. You know, are we just? I mean, are we really like? Yo, let's save this desert, bro.
my bad.
Don't put any oil in this desert, bro.
I want to make this last point
That's
on this
pretty-
video, then I'm gonna cut it off because I
pretty
thought
legit.
this was interesting. He does talk about
Areas
us polluting.
that previously supported military needs, according to the same Newsweek interview. At Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, for example, the drinking water servicing 170,000 people is so polluted with cancer-causing chemical solvents like trichloroethylene and perchloroethylene that it's been called
The worst example of water contamination this country has ever seen.
in
Mi-
short,
minus
the US
Flint, Michigan,
military
of
has
course.
a long track record of pollution and emissions that
That's nuts. So, like I said, I feel like I've been privy to this. I just know. Like I said, even if we tried our best, we use so much of it, and it's like I'm just talking about Apaches. You know, I would notice this is the thing that would trip me out. I would see, in my company we have 20 something Apaches. You know, but then there's like these 30 other companies around the world. You know, and they all have Apaches, and I'm thinking, dang. They're using all this amount of oil and hydraulic fluid.
Yeah, they're flying too.
And that's the interesting thing about it is like not only do we own all this stuff, do you think we just sit around and just like let it sit there and be like, you know,
Nope, training, baby.
No, training,
train.
bro. Gotta do
Gotta
something
train.
with it. And this leads us all the way back to why I think it's so fucking dangerous, and why they talk about why it's dangerous. A lot of other people do. I just give you the MRAP sitting around. It's no big deal, right? Like I said, I don't know what else to do with it, so I just give it to you. Well, same thing. What are you gonna do? I don't know. What you gonna do with MRAP? Now you're trying to find reasons to use your MRAP.
Yep.
You know, you're trying to find reasons to use your bomb dog. Find reasons to use your SWAT team. You know, like
that's we were talking about that point where it's like if you got it, you're gonna take it.
you're gonna take it. You're gonna take it, and you're gonna find some
you're
use
gonna
for
use
it.
it.
Or you're
Yeah.
gonna play with it. You're gonna train with it. You're gonna use it, and then sure enough, what have we seen since the beginning of SWATs? Now they're everywhere. Everybody has a SWAT, right? Not just New York and Los Angeles and metropolitans, but little ho punk town got a SWAT for what? For what? And they're kicking motherfuckers' heads in. You know what I mean? Every single day because they don't
you're
know
gonna
what
use
else
your
to do.
SWAT
Right,
team.
yeah, they're like the SWAT center. Dude, the same thing we say. Like, what do you do with infantry all day? Like, where's the infantry in the military? Dude, what do you do with all those soldiers? You know, like. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They just sit around. They try and find little details for them to do, and like just trying to keep them busy because you can't
field
war all the
exercises,
time. Yeah,
war
you-
games.
Exactly.
You know,
So
we're gonna
you
have you
You-
go
you-
out there
you
and
never
do
tell
some fake
some-
war
yeah.
shit, just because we need you guys to be sharp in case some real war shit pops off. Y'all need to remember what it's like.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you're gonna go out there and do some fake war shit.
And so that's my point. My whole thesis is that dragon that is the military has gotten out of control, and it's bleeding through our entire culture, even into our police now. That our police are like little kids looking up to their dad. You know, like, I'm a soldier too. Yeah. You know, like, my enemy has AK-47s and they're deadly. Your enemy is a old man trying to get a fucking check from the store, okay? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, your dude is, at best, like, there are special circumstances. You know, some people are fighting the Navarro cartel or some shit, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever, and they're, like, deep in it.
Everything deserves to be looked at with nuance.
Facts. Yep. So there's use for this type of force, but like you said, to match other force like its kind in the world.
Right.
And that's where I think we're grossly turning into the bad guy, because now everybody's just trying to match us, and we're irrationally out of control.
Right.
Like, there's no, I don't see where the argument lies. I don't see, like, the numbers don't support how we're, dude. The idea that we have to funnel it through the missiles to get to the benefit for us as a people, that's ass backwards. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't understand why we can't just put the money into programs that are for research and exploration and learning and education and rehabilitation and all these other things. And then what fails in that, you siphon off to try and control and mitigate against. Right. But not this idea of control and mitigate against everything, and then sometimes reform and educate and rehabilitate. That's just an ass backwards model.
I think this also goes into our earlier points, having to do with force and whether or not it's a good idea for the police to be a force, where they're out here being aggressive and forcing and looking for enemies to stop. I think instead. It should be more defensive or protective. And I think our military would benefit greatly from that stance. Some sort of, and you can call it whatever you want, nationalism or, American, what's the word I'm looking for, where you just go away by yourself, seclusion, like, I'm not talking about isolationism necessarily. I mean, I think we should trade, but we shouldn't be out here in all of these other countries policing their ideas.
We should.
If you want to say like communism is bad, like there's already big giant communist countries, man. We can't fight that boogeyman anymore. If you want to say terrorism is bad, our best friends are the Saudi Arabians, and they like some terrorism. They kind of funded 9/11, so I mean they like. Well,
terrorism. Look, I mean it's just again, Grissom is 10 times the amount of foreign bases as everybody else. That don't make no sense.
Well, the worst part for me is honestly like you could even have like even if you wanted to make the argument that all of that was necessary, you could still have it without spending that much money because another thing that we haven't really touched on is how inflated that number is, those budget numbers are, because of all the bullshit backdoor contract milking is going on. And all of the juicing that everybody's doing. Like that
fraud, waste, and abuse.
Like we could have the exact same military.
And abuse.
We could have the exact same military. Yes. For way cheaper. And it's like, okay, if you need it, like, that's one thing where I'm like, hey, look, okay, you guys think we need it. All right. Stop stealing from us and just pay what it costs to get it, and let's start there. And then we'll decide whether or not we need it after you stop stealing from me on top of what you're stealing from me.
Very true.
I think you could make an argument that our military would be cheaper if we eventually replaced all of these breathing and dying human beings with drones and robots and... Come on, man.
That's your solution to everything, like just more of the robots.
You want to save some money? You just get your robots out there to do most of your military jobs. They already got drones. You got fucking drones,
every time he's like, yep. Military, too much force. You gotta hand the force over to the robots. We as humans too much force and handle force.
We need Jedis. We don't need a clone army. Okay.
Well, then why you keep telling them to make more robots?
I'm saying if we had some robot Jedis, we wouldn't need a clone army.
Now he's talking about robot Jedi.
It's an overarching metaphor. Overarching metaphor for the
metaphor,
military.
He says. This is a metaphor. That's not a metaphor. I don't think that's a metaphor.
That's an oxymoron.
I'm making the point that like our military right now is, like you said, this big bloated thing that's going out there and fighting people. That's bad. Like if we had a more focused group that wasn't out there fighting everybody, that was maintained for in case we had a conflict, That makes way more sense.
Yes.
And if that team didn't have as many humans, that's even better.
I say we could get by with just like the special forces. Like I feel like you could like the special forces. Like I know it's not a lot of them, but for what we need, you know, like I feel like the special
I vote
forces.
for a standing army.
Huh?
I vote for a standing army.
That's what I'm saying. You just instead of having so many people in the standing army, you just have the special because those
Yeah,
are the guys.
no, I
those
would
are the
agree.
guys doing all the work, anyways.
Well, okay, so this ties into the Pareto principle, right?
Right.
Of any organization, there's about 20% of that organization that's really doing the heavy lifting of it. And so you're right. But then you would assume, oh, I'll trim it by size. Well, the Pareto principle still applies. So it's like you're just narrowing like, okay, so there's you're making your overall force smaller. But you're also making it overall more badass and efficient by nature. Because now we can't take as many people in, so we have to be more selective of who we do accept. So that does make them more badass, you know, in theory. But I think like you said,
Hold on. We got to pause for 1 second though, because when I joined in late 2000 or early 2005, so late 2004, early 2005, it was like February. I remember I had people in my class that were they were pushing them through basic because they were truck drivers. And we needed truck drivers in Iraq. So we didn't have like, at this point our military still does not, has like a good selection. It's just like,
well,
hey,
like you said, they fluctuate depending on their needs. So if it's like
they sucked up all the dum-dums. Bro, they sucked up a guy that looked like dude from Back to the Future.
Is once they suck you up, you're in. So that's 20 years of dum-dum. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if you're like, now you're like, oh, all right, we're not letting any more dum-dum in. It's like, that's 20 years. That motherfucker could start a whole war by the time you get him out of the system, you know? So, yeah.
Rise all the way to the
Yeah, he could be sergeant major of whatever the fuck, you know? And, like, be sitting in some gigantic meeting convincing...
Like some war meeting.
Convincing the president...
We have to do this now.
We need to take action.
No time, sir.
So, okay, I have to bring this up, too, because this is fascinating while we're talking about this. Most of these people, most of these programs, most of these things, who are they run by? Who starts all these private organizations? Who does all this, like, SWAT and all that stuff? They're veterans. They're war-hardened veterans looking for purpose in a life of civility.
Right.
Scary, too. Now, I love you, vets. You are my friends. You are my brothers. I know, and I get you. But that's what I'm saying. It's not your fault. It's the machine's fault. You have somebody who's now been bred as like a killing machine, right? Like that's their skill. What did I do when I got out of the military? My skill. What was my skill? Fixing helicopters. Okay?
That's all I know how to do.
That's all I knew how to do. So I was like, all right, I'm out of the military, but I still need to make money. What can I do in the world? I'll fix helicopters. Now, of course, I found a job back in the machine, right? You know,
There's not a whole lot of people that need you to fix helicopters.
That need attack helicopters specifically.
Apache helicopters.
Yeah, the only people hiring death machine mechanics like that are the death machine. So, you know?
Yeah, so you went right back. That's why I made a conscious decision not to rejoin the death machine. I was like, death machine really didn't work out for me.
Yeah, so
I'm going to go ahead instead of go right back in.
Why? The incentives are so lucrative. Even me, we've seen this with our own eyes. I do a job in the military. I get paid $45,000, $50,000 a year. Decent salary. Do the same job in this black T-shirt, $135,000 a year. Okay.
It's a big difference.
I digress. That's how much money. But hey, that's what you can do when there's $700 billion in your budget.
Yeah,
right?
when there's $700 billion and a whole bunch of wars going on.
You know,
all you need is a guy that can fix your death machine.
And so here,
I'm the guy.
And so here we come.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I said no mas. I went into another machine.
Good for you.
No, not good for me. The other machine is no fucking better. Don't you sit here and tell me that other machine's better than the military. Okay? That other machine and the military, they're all linked together. It's all a snake eating its own fucking tail.
So I digress. But I had a skill, and it was mechanic. You know, what do you do if you shoot? What do you do if that's what you do? Is you go out and you neutralize the enemy. You know, you now need to find a new enemy to neutralize.
And then neutralize them.
Yeah, and then efficiently. So SWAT, designed by Vietnam veteran, right? Dude, Vietnam veteran, super reconnaissance special forces dude, right?
He's like Mac V Song or something, right?
Badass.
Yeah.
Do you want to know who he is?
Yeah, who is it?
Okay, let's see. I have. This is my. And
The guy who came up with SWAT?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I watched the whole video on the history of police militarization.
Oh, cool.
John, would you like to see?
Let's go. Join us on the Magic School Bus. Learn.
It's our man's too, David Rubin.
The trend
Oh,
of police
yes.
militarization
Hello.
is something that people really
He doesn't know what to do with his hands.
in the 1960s.
He's real awkward with his hands right now. He's like,
but it didn't really take off like it did until
You need arms rests, buddy.
really
Rest your arms.
Vietnam and then the war on drugs. And that actually is one of the things that we talk about in looking at and linking up foreign policy to domestic consequences. SWAT teams are probably one of the best examples. SWAT teams are now something that pretty much any
What's
moderate
up with that guy? Did you see that guy?
no.
SWAT teams
Look at this
are
guy. He's
something-
itching to shoot somebody. He's got the little Jimmy leg. You can see him. And
Look
it's
at
on
these
his
ones.
right hand.
Look at his helmets and stuff. Like, what is this? Who are you gonna find in the street? That
Why are their magazines blue?
Oh, because they're training.
Oh.
Yeah, that's all training
much
stuff.
any moderately sized police department has.
Because what else do you do? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. What else do you do?
So if you have a town of 50,000 or more people, chances are you have got a SWAT team.
50,000 people, that's
So
it?
Special Weapons and Tactics Team, also referred to as Police Paramilitary Units or PPUs. So the fact you've got the word military in there, I think is fairly pointed. But where did those come from? We actually know exactly where they came from. You have two people who are generally considered responsible for SWAT teams.
Here's our man.
Daryl Gates and John Nelson. So John Nelson was a former Marine, Vietnam veteran. He was part of the elite force recon unit. So this unit was tasked
The
with
smart guys. They're the smartest of them
enemy
too.
lines, and despite having the name
Time out. I just want to make another point. You seen the police, right? Look at these young men. These young strapping men that are taking on an entire VC fucking one of the smartest enemies the United States has ever fought against.
The man in the black pajamas.
And these fools have belts and a fucking air rifle.
Worthy fucking adversary.
The
Worthy fucking adversary.
And-
And these guys, look at them, bro.
Look at them. They got sticks.
They got
Bro?
nets on their helmet.
And those guys had more gear than I have right now to make this podcast. They had, and
reconnaissance in this title. They were actually a very effective killing force.
Effective?
They engaged the enemy. I think it was something 90% of the time, which was incredibly high.
yikes.
Yeah, this is like
And
VSOG
he came
people.
back, joined the LAPD, and you have the Watts riots. And looking at these race riots, he goes to his boss, so Inspector Daryl Gates, who's a World War II veteran, and says, hey, I
The
have
vets
an
stick
idea of
together.
how we might be able to better control
World War II.
crowds. And he suggests modeling a unit after these recon units that he'd been a part of in Vietnam.
Oh, so it not only
elite.
is SWAT, not only is SWAT based off of the military, but it's not just based off of like the
Like-
infantry guys. It's based off of like SEAL teams, strike forces, and fire teams.
The most dangerous SEAL team. They said that the
The
most
people,
aggressive.
yeah.
This dude.
We're talking about special forces. Like, this is the guy that you drop into the compound to bust into Osama bin Laden's grandma's
no
house and
wonder
kill
their
him. Like,
tactic is to just run up and shoot you down.
shoot
Like,
you in
this
the face,
guy's
yeah.
like, that's their whole MO in Vietnam was like, like murk these dudes. So it's like 90% engagement rate. That's where your SWAT came from.
Yeah,
Runs
a
with
lot
it,
of killing.
And what
A lot of
was
killing.
originally supposed to be called the Special Weapons and Attack Team.
Facts.
But attack was
They thought
politically
attack is a bit
unpalatable.
much.
SWAT team was born. It's modeled after that particular unit. According to the LAPD history, every member of the original SWAT unit had prior military training. They were interested in, and if you read Gates' biography, he talks about watching what was happening in Vietnam, getting training from the military.
Yeah.
And so you start to see these kinds of very intimate connections.
I know. It has to look. PTSD is a very real thing. Like I'm a studier of like the subconscious mind, and you're not gonna tell me that you went to Vietnam and that didn't make some type of impression in your brain, and you're not gonna live in the echoes of that impression in your new job, which also is eerily similar. There's a strong connection. You can't tell me like there's not, you know.
That are happening between police and the military. And they're interested in using not only those mentalities that they've cultivated abroad, but they're also interested in using those technologies that they've developed.
How do we, well, if you had your druthers, would these things just not exist at all? Like policing would just be purely the way it was before all this?
So policing historically in the United States has been distinct from the military. So if you look at the Constitution, if you look at laws that came after that, probably the big one that people point to was enacted right after the Civil War called the Posse Comitatus Act. And
I don't even know that one.
So
what's that one?
Posse Comitatus literally translates to
force
of the people. And so the purpose of this law was...
This made me immediately think of when John Allen was talking about those police guard, paramilitary dudes like protecting Trump. I was like, Posse Comitatus.
Now we got a new word. We have agent provocateurs and Posse Comitatus.
Posse Comitatus. Bro, that's a great term for the podcast, bro. I gotta remember Posse Comitatus.
Yeah, he said, but it was like that you're not allowed to use the military essentially as like a police force.
Was to separate police from the military. So military could not be used as a civilian police force. Pretty much as soon as the ink is dry, this thing is getting violated. It's getting suspended in, I think, World War I, World War II. Then there are a series of court cases in the 1970s that pretty much take any kind of sticking power that this thing had to begin with completely out of it.
I hate that our jury can, like the judicial system can do that. It's weird. Well, I like and hate
SWAT
it.
Teams, which comes within this time period. The war on drugs and the war on terror are particularly important.
Both yikes.
Because you see that continued interconnectivity between domestic law enforcement agencies and what the federal government is doing. So now you have police departments who, instead of having their job, which has historically been to be peacekeepers, uphold domestic law, protecting the rights of citizens, both individuals who are the perpetrators of crime and the victims of crime. Instead of serving that function, they are now on, quote unquote, the front lines of two perpetual wars, the war on drugs and the war on terror, which are different from other conflicts that we've seen before.
Now the war on Corona. Don't forget about that.
Facts, which are all three of those things are no standing military force. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes it
the
even
invisible
more
enemy.
The invisible enemy, right? It's these boogie monsters that they keep making up for us.
The perfect enemy if you make money from fighting enemies.
Yeah, because he perpetuates.
Because it doesn't
The
go
war
away.
on terror, ongoing. Yeah, like you said, right?
Or you take it over. War on drugs. Okay, we're gonna bust up all the illegal drug guys, but hey, you got some you got some private corporations selling fentanyl? Bring them. Hey, how many pills you got? Give me all of them.
I have a very interesting idea in this context of that. How they do that, like that we were talking about earlier. They were talking about how all that poppy and heroin in Afghanistan and all that stuff. How Afghanistan is like the #1 exporter of heroin, and then how now subsequently, not even 20 years later or so, 10, 15 years later, we're having this huge opioid epidemic, and like which opioids are essentially pill-formed heroin, you know what I mean? Like low-key. And it's like that's the just drug ravaging our communities like crazy all of a sudden.
And think about the way it hits classes, because like a certain class of people can like get their hands on like the kind of the better pills, the pure shit, the good stuff for whatever kind of pain pill addiction they have. But when those people can't afford to get their pills and stuff, they do get heroin because it's cheaper. Like that's a real thing. So if that's a real thing, what that tells you is We're now selling them all the heroin they can eat.
Maybe
as much as they want. But if you can't pay Uncle Sam's prices, then that's the only way you're going to ever go to the black market for it.
Facts. Because that's another thing, too. The war on drugs, bro, I think that was just as big a scam as this war on terrorism was.
Oh, yeah, of course.
If not bigger, because it's so funny, man. It's like you see these two systems moving in correlation to each other. They're like, on a cop level, it's the war on drugs, and that creates a militarized style police force, where now you got these guys, SWATs and all this stuff, and they're fighting all these, like, citizens, essentially. Like, now you got SWAT teams kicking in the doors of just old ladies and stuff living out in the country, and just families, and talking, and that's traumatic as fuck. I know my girl lived through that. Like she had her door kicked in by SWAT and shit like that. So it's like,
not to mention Breonna Taylor, with the no-knock warrant.
Just got brains for that. Somebody, they kicked their door in, and that's not just her. They killed plenty of people. You know what I mean? Just doing that. It's such an intense situation because even that tactic comes from the military. Right. And when we kick a door in, or the military kicks a door in,
it's just to kill people.
It's to kill people. It's not to serve a warrant or some shit.
Arrest anybody.
It's like neutralize the enemy again. Like that's the reason they're clearing from room to room, and that's where you learn that idea from. Yeah. And that's crazy. The fact that y'all are even moving with live rounds. Like how that's not a bullet, like a rubber bullet type situation or something. All this is way out of control. But you see that came from the war on drugs, right? They created a boogie monster that you had to rise your force to meet. Mm-hmm. And then they just mirrored that in the military with the war on terrorism. So like you said, we could do it abroad. And I think it's been what kills me the most about it is how are we not allowed to come back and raise hell? You know what I'm saying? Like, where is the proof? Like, where do we get to, like, hold everybody accountable and be like, hey, you made us do all this for 20 years. You spent all our money. You did all that. And there was nothing. There's nothing. And that's a systemic problem that I've seen not only in the military, but in the police.
Well, there's just no accountability.
I kick your door down. I kill your dad, your Breonna Taylor. I just murk him and say, oh, my bad.
Same with the military and the NSA and spying and all that shit. With, what's those courts? The FISA warrants? Where you can just have a secret court where it's like, oh yeah, we know. Yeah, we just know he's bad.
Yeah.
We know he's bad. Yeah, we got some reporting on it. We got a little bit of intel.
No. These courts don't have due process.
We need to hear everything he's saying, and we need to know everything he has said. Yeah. Just because we don't like, we got this proof that he's, proof.
It's insanely corrupt.
I threw him up like Nixon.
He's dead.
It's funny.
Insanely corrupt. It's just that you said that we don't have any recourse against that. Mm-hmm. Because let me do some shit like that, Let me fuck it up in a way like that, and it's like...
Yeah, well, I mean, the government can do all kinds of things that you can't do. I mean, taxes, in a way, like, I mean, the way I see taxes is if I took your money from you without your permission... and then I went and I helped somebody with it. If I did that, doesn't matter who I helped or what I did, that's theft.
It's theft.
I go to jail. But if the government does it to you, and to me, and to you, and all the people listening, and everybody else in this country,
that's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's just what we do.
Yeah. It's a social... it's a socialist idea. It's a social program.
That's you doing your part, buddy.
Yep.
That's you doing your part.
To get me paid.
That's passive activism. That's some good passive activism where the only action you're doing is giving us your money every single day and every transaction.
Crazy. And so that's my point. I think that, like, I don't trust the government to do any of these things. That's been kind of my premise now. I was even saying with the war on drugs, didn't stop drugs.
Well, it didn't work the first time. Like I'm 100% convinced that the war on drugs was it was malicious in its intent.
Absolutely.
For all kinds of different reasons. But just because we saw how badly that ended in the 20s with prohibition of alcohol. It not only did it not work, but it literally set up the foundation for organized crime in this country.
Because it's done the same thing again.
A side effect.
And it's done the exact same thing. Like you said, John. If
side effect of prohibition.
yes, if there was no black market, then there wouldn't be a heroin to turn to when you couldn't afford Uncle Sam's pills.
And so it's this constant, it's this, like, I mean, I'm noticing a trend of, like, government intervention and then creation of not just of war. Of war. It's like, you know, in order to protect you, we're going to create, like you said, the whole drug trade and not only the drug trade, but then now the war between the drug trade and us. And then, like, we're going to intervene in your behalf to protect you, so we're going to spread out across the world and conflict everywhere, right? It's incredible. We completely glossed over the idea earlier, Mac. You were talking about not only does it seem corrupt on an institutional level, but I think ultimately it's not. It's not the government's fault. It's individuals. And I won't even call them corporations because you don't know. It could be corporations. It's the senators and politicians themselves. But this little machine we have, that's it. It's just a little bank that people run up to, and like you said, they grab some little corner of it and they yank on it, and then it pours out dollar bills into their own pockets. And that's the thing that's
Walter Williams pointed out this brilliantly to me, and he was saying, like, you know, once you make legalized theft the game, it's extremely not in your favor to not play that game.
Right.
So he was like, if I was running, he's from Philadelphia, and he was like, if I was running for some sort of political office in Philadelphia, or if I was running for senator or something like that, like, what do you think I could go around to the state and say, like, don't expect me to go to the government to get highway funds or anything like that, because it doesn't state it in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution as things the federal government can spend money on. He was like, they wouldn't elect me.
Yeah.
Like, why would they elect me? That's dumb. He's like, that doesn't mean that they're going to pay less in taxes. It just means that Delaware's going to get all their fucking highway funds.
Yeah, exactly. The name of the game is to fight over that money.
Yeah, and so once you set up that system, it's very hard to pull out. Especially, like, if you want to be like an individual, like you said, and like stand up and be like, I don't agree with that. And it's like, nobody gives a shit. That's not how, you know.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Sit back down, please. Thank you.
We heard you.
Yes. Please, by all means, abstain from the game. if that's what you please.
Did you vote? Okay, well, good.
Hey, if you didn't vote, then I don't want to hear it.
Even if you did, well, you voted. Should have voted.
Should have convinced more people to vote your way.
Oh, you didn't want to go? You didn't want to go to war with Afghanistan? Should have voted.
Should have voted that.
It was like, I didn't know. I voted for you. It's funny because even when I voted for you, you told me I wasn't gonna go to war. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna do none of that. I'm gonna chill. Is what you told me. But then, not even a year later, it's like So I mean, it's crazy. It's definitely a game they're playing, and you know the thing that kills me the most though is like I do believe that this is a very Republican-centric idea. You know, for some reason.
Are you just basically making the point that Republicans are just pro-military industrial complex, pro-war, pro-military, I would even say like pro-veteran in a sense of like they kind of, you know, Democrats try, but I think the Republicans court veterans much more.
Yes, absolutely. No, I know that to be a 100% fact.
I think that's definitely true. I think you could say that the Republicans are probably responsible for more of it. But I don't think that it's really by a huge margin. Because, I mean, I brought it up earlier, too. Like, lest we forget, more bombs were dropped in the Middle East by a Democratic president than by the previous Republican one. So
I don't think you can equate drone strikes to Tomahawk cruise missile assaults on the entire, like, from the
population of a city. Yeah.
We just berated them with Tomahawk cruise missiles before we even touched down.
You're right.
With our big tanks and then obliterated.
Hey, I don't discriminate against bombs, dude. Bombs are bombs.
But you're right though. The following guy did run on a platform of, hey, I'm gonna stop all that. And then increased it.
Well, so. You see, we got caught up in his rhetoric. He was so good at his rhetoric because he did say that he was going to get us out of Iraq and Afghanistan, which he kind of did, sort of. Which he wiggled his way into that. He was like, well, I kind of, I did a little bit. But he didn't necessarily say that he wasn't going to go into Libya and fuck up with Yemen and everything. He didn't say that he wasn't going to do other stuff. He just said that he was going to stop Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's true. So funny. All right. Moving on to Obama killing little children in Afghanistan.
What a segue. Oh my God.
Let's segue straight into Obama drone striking weddings of Muslims. That's a great idea.
Segue of the year.
An Obama administration estimate of the number of civilians killed by American counter-terror strikes is being called into question. An unprecedented report released Friday revealed how many so-called enemy combatants were killed outside war zones. But critics say the document significantly undercounts the number of non-combatant deaths. Jan Crawford is at the White House. Jan, good morning.
Well, good morning. So the news came Friday afternoon, right before a holiday weekend, with the president signing an executive order that was aimed at creating more transparency for that drone program. But it is just that transparency that has critics asking whether the administration is revealing enough.
I think it's an indication of how far that we've come.
The Obama administration says it has killed more than 2,300 enemy combatants by counter-terrorist strikes. But it acknowledged the harsh reality that the once secret drone program may have been involved in anywhere from 64 to 116 civilian deaths since 2009 in areas outside active war zones.
The president believes that our counterterrorism strategy is more effective when we're as transparent as possible.
But critics say they aren't transparent enough. Now it's the lack of precision in those numbers that's getting scrutiny.
We're going to be asking really hard questions about these numbers. They're incredibly low for the number of people killed who are civilians.
Even the highest U.S. government estimates are significantly lower than death totals compiled by watchdog groups. One estimates a maximum of 801 civilian deaths. The report, critics say, also doesn't designate the region where the deaths occurred or explain how officials determined who was an enemy and who was not. Since taking office, President Obama has significantly expanded the drone program. Earlier this year, he acknowledged there have been unintended consequences.
There's no doubt that civilians were killed that shouldn't have been.
In this latest reform of the program, Mr. Obama signed an executive order meant to protect civilians and make the public disclosure of civilian deaths by drone more routine.
It's a clear statement by the U.S. government that the protection of civilians is at the core of national interests, of legal obligations, and an ethical concern.
Now, administration officials say they're open to revising those numbers of civilian deaths if they get new information. But they said the discrepancy might be because the government simply has access to more information than these watchdog groups would, and also because terrorist groups may be spreading misinformation as propaganda. Christine?
All right, Jan, thank you.
Look how she spun it at the end, bro.
Fake news.
They always get that.
Bullshit.
Yeah, they always got that shit
It's
about
like,
that.
of course it's not 800 dead civilians, because the military has better numbers. Get
Well,
the fuck out of
that
here,
was
bro.
my first criticism was you got to stop getting your sources from the news, John.
No, it's not. It's not. No. I'm saying my source was the 800 number. My source was that a large number of our deaths, a ridiculous number of our drone strike deaths, are not killing enemy combatants.
It's no, you're right. I was just joking with you. No, it's It's that they're well, it's the problem is
touched on the truth.
It's kind of like some of the things I saw with the police. It's the same situation, bro. This is the same situation. We have a system that's operating without a lot of checks and balances. Like the checks and balances are very weak. They're very weak. You know, it's almost like just an idea, really. You know. So my point is they're lying to us and they're doing what they want. Same thing. They I'll show you a story. Same thing. It's on a small scale. It's like the small scale of this. Same.
But there's no transparency, you know.
Exactly, there is no transparency.
There's no transparency.
No, none whatsoever. If anything, it's like corruption too. That's the thing that's killing everybody the most is that there's a covering up of the situation. You know, it's like let's just kind of sweep this under the rug, or like let's just change these numbers up real quick. Our bad.
Or just,
you know,
just buddy stuff. Like, oh, you're family members with the guy who started Blackwater, and you want to be the Secretary of Education, and you want to give me millions of dollars? Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. You don't have any background in education, really, but let's go. Get up there.
Yeah.
Get confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same kind of situation that got Joe Biden's son on the board of some sort of Ukrainian power company.
Crony
even
politics,
though he
man.
doesn't know anything about power or Ukraine.
Yep. He's fucking crony, in-dealing ass politics, bro.
That's not what we tend to think of as...
Yeah, because they were just...
That in spots downwind of the location, he was able, with certainty, to smell chemicals.
This is important. This is what we're talking.
The property was being used as an illegal methamphetamine in A County, converged on the property of Eugene Mallory and his wife, Tonya Pate. Their warrant said the property was being used as an illegal methamphetamine lab. Well, the entire basis of the search warrant was that the investigating officer says that in spots downwind of the location, he was able, with certainty, to smell chemicals.
This is where I was.
What? They got him on a meth lab with the smell like marijuana in here? Smell like meth near this guy's trailer. You smell
This
like
cop,
meth.
this cop is so trained.
Bro.
This cop, they want you to believe this superhero fucking, deputy dog can smell this fucking meth lab. I smell that meth lab from a mile away,
It's
boy.
crazy. That was downwind. It was strong wind.
Let's talk about them selling. Hold on. Let's talk about them selling a brown Rumpo from Grand Theft Auto 3 for $2,800.
I know, right? Dude, you should see some of the ones down here in our place, dude.
The Rumpo.
There's like an 02 Toyota dirt bag truck for
That's
like
a hustle, bro.
$3,800.
I'm about to get into that hustle.
I'm like, what?
I'm about to get buying
Dude,
and
you
selling cars.
you want to
is a
flip
hustle,
cars?
bro.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go,
seriously.
bro. Let's go. Let's start it up.
You buy one of those Brumpos for like $400. Like you said, fix it up.
Cars
sell
by
it.
bros. Come on,
Easy.
bro.
Okay, this is important though.
In a trailer on the property, and her son Adrian was asleep in another trailer when she heard the police.
And it scared me so bad that I said, Adrian, come out. And that's when that guy told her, contain her. So she shoved me into the car and then put the handcuffs on really, really tight and pushed me into the
Yeah, so you know what happens. They lock them down, this and that. They come and they raid the house. Oh, but...
Tonya was taken to the police station, but then released without charge.
Just like,
only on her return that she began to realize what had happened.
They didn't find no drugs,
During
no
the raid,
nothing, of course.
The armed officers entered the house where Tonya's 80-year-old husband was sleeping. Guns drawn, 6 sheriff's deputies made their way towards his bedroom.
I came back to the house and it was horrible. There was blood all over that bed. It was thick and it was running down the walkway. And there was a lot of it. And I was just like, oh my God.
Eugene had been shot 6 times. 5 of those shots were fatal wounds to the chest.
8-year-old white man, so I'm telling you, it happens to everybody.
We're full
You're
of blood.
defending a no-knock
Blood ran
warrant.
all the way down that side. I guess he laid over there and bled to death and died.
Wow.
Eugene kept 2 guns next to his bed in latched boxes. The initial police report says the officers were confronted by an armed suspect.
So one of the guns
Yeah.
was potentially in this?
Yeah, but he didn't have enough time.
Because their story is that he was exiting,
Yeah.
holding a gun
Yeah.
in both hands and leveled it at the officers, and I think the report says that he was actually killed outside the bedroom as he was coming out.
Well,
to confront
I got
them.
blood inside the room, and like I said, if he was walking.
But you think there was any kind of like investigation or anything?
On this rug.
Think about how old that man was.
80 years old, bro.
Both Eugene's body and his gun were moved before investigators reached the scene.
Come on.
Where the body drops, where the gun is. Why would you move
man.
any of these things? You know, you say he shot at you, everything, he should be dropped where he's at, his gun should be in his hand. Why is everything moved? I don't believe Gene's gun was in his hand. That's why it was moved. I don't believe Gene was where you said. That's why he was moved.
So point being is, this happened. This is just like Breonna Taylor's story. This happens constantly because this is like I said, SWAT. These are SWAT techniques. They're busting in the SWAT, which is designed, like I said, kicking doors in Afghanistan, seeing the same techniques, and that's to kill people. And they often do that. I'm not blaming anybody. I empathize with both of them. It's a shitty situation for both of them. You're coming in, you don't know what to expect. It's going to lead me into another point that I wanted to make about this, but you don't know what to expect. So, guy comes out, he doesn't know what to expect. You're kicking his door in. He's like, hey, he's got a golf club. He thinks breaking and entering, and then y'all blaze him, and it's like, dang. Okay. Tough situation. Supercharged from both sides. Dangerous, right? Whether or not it should be happening is already a big conversation. But then if a mistake happens, their first instinct, like John said, is to cover it up. Is to be completely change the numbers. It wasn't 800, it was like 166. He was shooting at us. He had a gun. I reacted. It was a knee jerk. It's like, jeez, it's tough.
It gets old.
It gets
real old.
It gets old. And not to just point out the problem, but not to just rant about the problem, but to point out the specific problem. There's no investigating body that checks up on these things, and has the authority to come down on them. It's
the people that check them are the same people that cut them the deal and get them off when they get in trouble.
It is them.
It's
other
the same
police.
people.
Yeah. So you can't have other police work. Like, you need a whole outside.
You have police lawyers investigating policemen of wrongdoing.
It doesn't make any sense. And so it's like, the report said. It's like, yeah, but where is
who wrote the report?
Challenge to the report? Yeah, I wish that as a murderer I could just kill somebody and they'd be like, all right, well, tell us what you did. All right, well, we got into a scuffle and I shot him and he shot me. All right, well, get out of here. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. So that I think is weird, that there's no checks and balance in that situation where they just report it how they saw it and there's no way for people to challenge that.
Yeah, and in that source I brought up, they're like, yeah, these other organizations that are watchdogs are making up these crazy numbers of dead Muslim people that we killed in areas that we're not even at a war in.
Maybe they're not privy to the same information. Like, you know what? No, they're for sure not privy to the same information. You made sure of that. You 100% had obscured it and falsified it and hidden it and redacted it and everything else to make sure that our enemies don't know, but also us don't know. It's really tricky. And you're right. I think I made a mistake earlier that I want to fix too, which is I said it's a mostly Republican situation. I don't know about that. I'm making that statement based on the fact that I feel like these things have been fueled by the drugs, the war on drugs and the war on terrorism predominantly, and left over from World War II, which wasn't necessarily a Republican divisive thing.
Yeah.
But
and also the parties switched at some point, so it's like when you look at the past, it doesn't really reflect today's politics. Today's politics are crazy, and they're this weird thing that I don't understand. Well, I'm averagely intelligent, so
you try and track, but
there's super delegates. I don't understand that shit, and they vote. There's like a convention,
and that's why a lot of people have a big problem with
very intricate.
Is because it's like you're removed from that. It's like, I vote for you, and so you could. It's not like I vote for the situation, or like it's not like I necessarily vote for war in Afghanistan or not. But maybe I do. But then you use the same propaganda bullshit that you fed me to get yourself elected. You said that to me to. It's tough. They understand story, and I think that plays in part. I can't figure out motive. It's just like it's hard for me to believe that people would really proliferate this type of stuff just for money. That makes it seem so.
I think it's all like, I feel like people don't give the amount, like the weight of power? How much people are running on their subconscious out there.
That's like
these people out there even in high positions, I feel like are still a lot of them are just running on their subconscious, really. So you're right. When you come to them, they have all these rationalizations, and they say them very well because they believe them. They really thought that homie had weapons of mass destruction, and they really thought that it was going to be bad. And they really think that there's something out there that they have to stop. And so they go out there and they do these things, and it doesn't hurt that they make a lot of money in the process. So, I mean, like, of course.
It makes me...
You know, that's just what they keep doing. Like you said, how did you make all that money from war?
Defending us.
So what did
I
you
really like
do
this
with all of
point.
it? More war.
Defending
So I like this point that the subconscious is controlling a lot of like these politics and these actions on the macro scale, right? And it makes me think like sometimes like America just elected a president and our entire culture turned into like now we're like the Charlie Sheen egomaniac. We're like we're a winner. We got tiger's blood. We don't fucking like we're gonna grab everybody up by the fucking horns. Like they're all juiced up giving interviews and shit. It's like, you know, Charlie Sheen, Tiger. You guys get what I'm saying, right? Like it's like instead of being like, you know,
they're good, fire blooded, and
you know,
whips
it's like
up into a national frenzy.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but I think it's nasty both ways though. That's the one thing I can't figure out. In trying to set up for this, I was like, Mac even came in here and I was like Googling things like justifications for the military-industrial complex. Like I've been trying to see something pro.
They're like he's being good. We're not gonna spy on him. That was good. It's good.
Let him
Google
in.
search. It's gone up 10 points.
let it in. But no, nothing. I can't find a single thing that's like, yeah, this is why this makes sense.
Well, like I said, the other narrative is like that these people are actually a threat. That's the only other narrative that you can have.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, why else would
Otherwise
you're
just building for building's sake, and then it's not making you any money. It's just sitting there being a war machine.
But it could be that too, because look at people. Some people out here like preppers and shit. You know, they just be prepping against things. They just be like, they're bored and stuff. They got money. You know what I mean? They're just like, what are you doing with your money? Building a bunker. You never know what's gonna happen. You know, and it's like they got money to protect themselves, and so they do. Bro, I'm telling you, it starts with the fact that we're bloated, bro. We're bloated as a society. That's the only thing I keep even thinking. Me and Mac were saying, the fact that these fools even got $650 billion just laying around, that's where we fucked up. That's why we fucked up. And then, of course, when you got that much money laying around, what do you start thinking about? Protecting yourself against all these ridiculous, extraneous circumstances. Like, you know what I mean? Like, a dude who's really got threats and challenges in their life and things that they have to overcome are like, I see my threat. That my threat opposes on me every day. But when you don't have something that's oppressing on you every day, then what do? You like they always say, we're preparing for the worst. Why you got SWAT? Never know. It could get ugly out here, you know? Somebody could try and...
Why you got that bomb dog thing?
Yeah.
Well, just in case somebody attacks this town of 2,000 people with some chemical gas,
with chemical gas or something, you never know.
You know?
And so it's like, I mean, you know, that's my point. When you have nothing but pure safety and security, those are the types of things you get to come up with and like conjure up in your mind. It's like dangers, you know, where most people are reacting to the actual dangers that are within their present view. But it's too much. It's too much, and it's bleeding into our civilian force too. Yeah, like I said, they're mimicking that in the civilian sector as well.
Well, they're also going straight from the military into the police force.
That's why I can't get down with this is what me and Mac say. That's why I'm a libertarian. I won't speak for Mac, but this is why I'm specifically a libertarian. You know, it's like I can't get down with this idea. They're the most dangerous people out here that I see. You know, when I look around at the most threats that I have to my individual freedom and rights as a person, I'm not worried about you. You don't got no fucking machine gun. You know what I mean? Like, some people do, but like, I'm just me. I'm a middle class American. You know, like, what I got to worry about in my neighborhood? You know, my neighbor paints his house a color I don't like or some shit, you know? But what I have to worry about with the government, you know, like I said, that you're going to take, first of all, morality issues, take my money and bomb kids over in other countries and shit that I don't agree with.
Yeah, they totally don't agree with.
Just, but then even oppress people in my own community, in my own community, talking about, oh, we're gonna stop you on the war on drugs and this and that, and then just shaking everybody up, throwing them in your prison. It's just weird. It's weird, and I think a lot of things I could do with my own money. Because even other people are like, well, switch it. We could just take that money and use it to help people and stuff. I'm like, if the same thing happens, you're going to fuck that up too. Yeah. You're going to try and help people, but you're going to incentivize them wrong. And then they're going to filtrate off the system and fucking overinflate that too. Next thing you know, our health insurance and everything and healthcare system be just as over ballooned and it's already the same way. It'll be just as overfucked as the military industrial complex. Yeah. We'll have the welfare state complex.
Well, government never makes anything cheaper. I don't know what this idea is that somehow you can put something we'll let the government do it and it'll be cheaper, and it's like yeah. When? How? Yeah. Tell me. When has that ever happened before? The government's never made anything cheaper.
I have a good little point to bring in that I just kind of thought of that fits everything perfectly. But it's how we looked at the defense budget, $700 billion, right?
Yeah, for the 2021, yeah.
How much money did we use in the stimulus to boost the economy to give to Wall Street and the corporations right around March, whenever all this shit went down? Wasn't it $2 trillion?
Yeah, it was trillions.
Yeah. It was trillions.
I mean, far, I think to date it's $4 or $5 trillion that they've done.
Which is twice what the entire world, including us, does for every year in defense budget. That's insane.
True. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
And we just gave it to Wall Street and the corporation. We just printed money and said, here you go.
But now see, that's the thing that sucks too, because this is where we say that's the problem, is the system's too big. So you say it like that. You say, well, they give it to the corporations, and then you're like, they Target was like, thanks, man, and just put it in his pocket. That's not why they gave it to them.
And so the stocks wouldn't crash.
Well, they gave it to keep people's jobs,
so that they could have money to give them jobs.
Yeah, that they didn't have to lay people off and even stack up more unemployment. So they were supposed to be, extending and furloughing people and continuing to pay them wages and giving them money to continue operating and not go out of business. But you can argue that
that's not what they did with it.
That's why is the government even responsible for that? You know what I mean? Why is the company not responsible for that? Yeah. If I don't have enough savings put aside for coronavirus. Yeah. But then they help me with that $1,200 stimulus check. So it's whatever. But my point is, that's the problem. It changes too many hands before it gets to me. Yep. So the government guy who got you the stimulus thing, he's like, yep, okay, cool. And he passes it down to
take mine off the top, zoinks. Yeah. And then he takes his, let me get my taste, zoinks. Well, what's this down here? Is this a tax?
Well, think about it. I love explaining this to people. I'm like, well, this is exactly what the government did when they gave you your stimulus check. It's been taking your money for years, and it just decided this time that it's going to give a little bit back to you, but not before they shave off their customary little bit. Yeah. So they took your money, and then they shaved some off the top. And then this time they actually just sent that back to you instead of fucking it off and however they're going to help you. Mm-hmm.
It's a future investment in yourself.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And the worst part, dude, I was going to bring this up a second ago. I heard about this story of this guy. He was building these little, this woman in his neighborhood. He'd, lived there for 5 years, and she was homeless or whatever, and she was always in that area. And he built her this little, trailer cabin, a little wagon house. It's, small, little thing. And then a bunch of other people wanted some, and so he started doing it. He made a GoFundMe. Long story short, it gets so big that the city comes in and tears down all of his little wagon things, and then they set up their own committee to do the same thing basically, but under their little seal and shit, and then had him come in and bid with other corporations to make these little houses. But again, he's not a corporation, he's just a guy. He's literally building these in his garage and shit. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you got to bid, so how much do your houses cost? And he's like, well, each one's about $2,000. And they're like, oh, that's way too cheap. He was like, too cheap? what do you mean too cheap? They were like, yeah, you're nowhere near everybody else, like, with the bidding thing. Like, they wanted him to charge them more. And I was like, and so, like, he ended up not getting the contract, and, like, all of his houses that he already built, that people had donated money to build, got destroyed.
Wow. And then they just built over, wow.
And yeah, and then, of course, the ones that they built were, like, 10 grand, I don't know, God knows how much those motherfucking pieces of shit probably cost. Those FEMA tents that cost $150,000 or whatever.
I think there is a fair point to be made that capitalism has advanced the free market in a sense that it's going to make better shit than the government can make, and then the government's going to buy that shit. And I think that that's kind of fair overall if you think the government's good. But if the government's doing bad shit, like invading foreign countries, then the private corporations that are making the shit are like, why are you selling these things to go kill people?
It's kind of like what Rod said earlier, you know, the government is not just like this entity on its own, it's like other people. So the problem comes from when the people in the government know the people that they're buying the shit from, and they buy it from them for extra money to like grease their friends' pockets, and then they're going to kick back some to them so they actually make a little bit of money off the deal. And that's how you end up with chairs that cost $360 and mugs that cost fucking, you know, $1 bazillion and all this dumb shit. And that's like, that's what I said earlier, it's like the slap in the face on top of it. It's like, we'd have enough, you could do all the same shit if you got in without stealing
infinite
even
money.
More for us.
Yeah, if you got infinite money, you can fraud, waste, and abuse all day.
Well, and see, that's definitely my point. Is it's like a rental car. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, let me rent your money for this year, and then I'll take good care of it. It's like, yeah, okay. And then whatever I don't use at the end, I'll give back to you.
I'll give back to you.
It's like, nah, bro, you're gonna run my shit raggedy, and and it's the same principles are applying everywhere. We're all seeing that, right? So why is it bad to just have the MRAP laying around? Well, because now you got to find something to do with it. Yeah. And then you got to give it to somebody who's now going to find something to do. And the chances of them finding an effective use for that, highly unlikely.
Because if they needed it, they would have gotten one already.
They would have got it. They would have got something specific. Same thing. That we have all this money laying around. Just laying around. Just like piled up trillions of dollars.
That we can just save economies with. Just
to be like, gotta do something with this money. Dude, how many times have you heard people talk about we gotta use up our budget to make sure that we get the same budget next year? Because if we don't use that, then they'll lower our budget.
That's a military thing, too.
It's a military thing.
And
so you're just spending and everything. Because the incentives is a pile of money. You're trying to figure out how do we get our biggest slice of that. It's just, that's a faulty system.
I heard that colleges... I can't remember if it was Thomas Sowell that said this. This is very anecdotal, but like I just happened to hear that somebody was talking about how colleges actually make their tuition cost more than it should, because if it's unaffordable, the government will give them grants to like subsidize the students.
Yeah.
And I was like, so they incentivize them to make it unaffordable for the people to go to. And then they get extra money from the government.
Because they jugging, man. They all just trying to find a way to scam the little system.
Like you said, go pull that lever. Like, hey, yo, let me get that government lever.
So I don't get hung up too much on good versus bad, right? Because who the fuck am I? I don't know. You know, like you said, there's guys over there who spin a whole different tale, a whole different story that'll justify the use of every single one of these drone strikes or whatever, right? I'll just level with you, though, where I think both people can meet, and that's why I said I'm not for either party or anything. Everybody can meet on this level that it's inefficient.
Yeah.
Highly inefficient. If left to its own devices, people talk about this with free markets. Like, if you leave free markets alone, trust me, it's already happening with the government. Like, look what's happening to you. It's already happening. Things will get out of hand, and they'll misappropriate things. They'll do it in a way that's just completely inefficient. They'll leave a pile of money laying around, which should never happen. Money should be working constantly, right? And so leave it in the people's hands who can keep it at the most work. Mm-hmm. You can't do that if you're collecting all the time. Mm-hmm. And then you collect and you have no real purpose, so you have to engineer purpose, engineer justification for the money, raise the money, constantly. It ends up being oppression. You have to scare us, scare them,
that leads into this idea of false flags in foreign nations and false flags even on our own soil, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. No, 100. No, there's no perhaps about it. It's 100% absolutely. Because why wouldn't you? Like what? Like I said,
you want to perpetuate the machine,
you're
right?
all trying to pull a lever. You know, this isn't like I don't buy into this Illuminati idea. This is all of our own personal greed at hand. I went to Afghanistan. I was there. I turned the wrenches on the death machines I'm talking about. Why'd I do that?
To make money.
To make money. So it's like, you know what I mean? And at the time, was I thinking, oh, you know,
people are flying around and killing people.
He's gonna fly and kill somebody. No. I was like, gotta pay my bills, gotta take care of my family, gotta do, you know, and we all got our head down and we're all doing our thing, you know, and so it's our own. It's all of our own. You get there.
It's a provider mentality that you had as well.
Me.
Yeah.
Well, facts. I mean, like I said, I was doing it for my family and everything, but that's the same thing that the Republican or the Halliburton CEO is saying. Like, why are you doing it? I'm just trying to save you guys from terrorism and feed my family. I'm just hardworking. Okay, so fine. But inefficient, reigning, just absolutely complaining because people don't care for your shit like you care for your shit. You know? Like, would you let somebody else raise your kids? Why the hell you let them raise your money? It's crazy.
I like it. That sounded like some fucking Instagram shit. I like it.
But for real, I mean, I think that I would never let y'all dummies out here handle my money. That's like, you know what I mean? Like anybody, you know? Hey, here's my money. You decide how to best use it for me.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy. And then they're just gonna turn it into a tank.
Of course.
Yep. They're going to turn into extra tanks that they then give to the police.
Yeah.
So if you ever go outside and protest and they think you might get sketchy, they can roll out the motherfucking Tank V, LC, BGM, or get in the fucking SWAT thing.
So
it's got a wheel like this. And they fucking turn into the neighborhood.
And it's just the Joe. It's just the Joe on there. Like they said, a poorly trained Joe at that.
Yeah.
It's just like... It's just
hey, some of them too are G.I. Joe Wish You Was, which is like... that's a whole... they're all the same though.
I mean, I have to say a lot of them.
They're people that... I think... I want to say there are probably great cops. And there are probably a vast majority of competent cops. But there seems to be a subsection, and they seem to all kind of defend and ignore this subsection that does really fucked up, heinous, violent, reactionary shit that they don't need to do.
You know, I love that what we're talking about here, and I think this is a good point of the conversation. It's like, you ever have a fucked up family member that you kind of like, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of keep up for them, you know, like you don't want to let them ruin the reputation of your family, so you kind of keep it in the family. Mm-hmm. You know how that you ever hear about that? Like you don't put your family's business out in the street. So Uncle Willie and his wife might have, you know, whatever. Uncle Willie cheated on his wife or something, and he has an illegitimate baby or something, but we don't really talk about it.
Yeah, but we don't talk about it.
Right, exactly.
That's the bad manners.
Facts. That's the problem. It's like it's that blue shield creates them as a family that, like you said, has to proliferate their whole little culture and their whole little ideas. And so it's like that. Like I wish one of you motherfuckers would snitch on me. Like think about it for real. Like snitch on me, John. For real, snitch on. I wish you would. You know what I mean? Like think about snitching on your brother. Think about these guys. And it sucks because this is the type of mentality you have. They're going to war every day together. You know, it's like, us against the civilian population, bro. Yes, let's go. Like, you know what I mean? We gotta. Who knows who it's gonna be? And so that's the type of family they commit. So when one of them does something ridiculous, heinous, or whatever, you think more to protect him rather than to shun them or turn them away. Because what you supposed to do that for the press? You supposed to do that for us, right? You supposed to throw him away for us? We're the bad guys. We're not your friends. We're the unruly mob. You know what I mean? And you're supposed to give away one of your own? Nah, it's not happening. That's like, you know what I mean? That's not even happening. So that's where I get with it. I get why it happens. Where it really fucks up is the whole culture. You know, It's like
also laws and
culture
policies
are you
that promote that. Yeah, laws and policies too are also a big thing too, that promote that kind of activity or prevent civilians from suing or something. Those kind of things. Like qualified immunity, other things of that nature.
Like you said, any type of checks
protection
against them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then if I'm just flat out, like I said, I don't think they should have the resources like that.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being honest, like it's a really tough job. But even if I'm giving you the resources, every resource that you get should be aimed towards defense.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, your job is not enforcement. That's what I don't like. It's protection.
Yeah.
Protect me as a citizen. Show up to be that hero for me when I need you to be.
Right.
But this idea that I need you to go and try and stomp out every bad guy out there so there'll be no bad guys to get me is ludicrous.
Yeah, the fact that we have in every fucking city a Suburban or whatever that's got a dog in it that they can just bring anywhere, and it's like, hey, this guy looks a little sketchy, and I think I smell some potpourri in your dashboard, gentle sir. Why don't you open it up? Click, clack. Oh, yeah, well, let's get the dog then, huh? See if he activates.
Right.
What if he fucking boops his snoot on your fucking back door?
Boops his snoot.
You're done. You're done. Now they're going to rip you out of the car. You're done.
Facts. I would love to see just the entire... Even if it's at a detriment, but I want to see some type of regressive action in this. I feel like in this arena we're just, and nobody's thinking like just, hey, let's rein it in real quick, tighten up the whole chains on this whole thing. Be like, all right, look, we need stricter reporting. Open up these books. Like, take away some money, take away all these tanks and these guns. All this, just, y'all need to kick it back a notch. The Army, like you said, shut all these bases. What the hell we need that base and this base and that base? Stop it. Get the fuck out of there. Leave the people alone. Let them be. Just leave the people alone.
You're coming home from Djibouti.
Yeah, for real. Stop.
I say for the police, we have to get rid of their pants. They should only be able to wear high-cut shorts.
Yeah?
Just because it's a psychological thing. It's a little psychological thing. Just so that
all these Lieutenant Dangles running around.
Intimidating. You feel really intimidating with giant cargo shorts and knee pads and shit. Like, you want to knee somebody in the stomach with knee pads on. You're like, I want to see if I feel it, I want to see if I can break his ribs. You're just looking for a reason to. But if you got some, like, nice high-cut, like, Larry Bird shorts, like...
True.
You're going to be a lot less to be jumping in like, hey, mister, I'm going to tell you what.
So
like, you're going to think twice about that.
You're not going to feel as brave.
You're not going to feel as brave. You're not going to feel as macho. And I feel like it's a lot of testosterone, a lot of macho-ness.
We live in...
You're disrespecting me. I'm just asking you questions and shit.
We live in a clown world where I truly believe that someday the police could be wearing hot pink short shorts. And they could be riding old-timey giant bicycles with a big front wheel and a little back one, and just be, like it could happen. Probably all be happening at Pride 2022.
I think it'd be better that way.
Yeah.
I think it'd be better that way. If I'm just being completely honest, like I said, the biggest threat I see right now is America. If I'm being honest, I think we're dangerous. Yeah, we've become.
That's a dangerous idea.
The most dangerous. Yeah, I thank God I can say that. Thank God I can. Woo.
Do you have the dangerous idea that our founding forefathers had? Freedom.
But I'm pretty sure you can say that in Canada too. And you can say that in Italy.
Don't bring the leaf into this.
That you can say America sucks. So, it's like this idea that you're privileged for the ability to say your country sucks. It's like, whatever.
Well, in some countries you can't say that. Maybe they can say that America sucks. But they can't say that their country sucks. And so that's the thing, because people forget, though, that
how many of those are there?
Is one of the only places with an actual official protection. Whether or not it gets trampled on is another thing. But we are one of the few countries with an actual protection on free speech. Yeah. Where we say, you get to say whatever you want. Lots of places don't have that. Like Canada doesn't have that.
Good examples to the contrary, or even on the hard side too, are North Korea, China, Iran. I don't know how Iran is with talking shit about Iran, but I remember during the the Arab Spring in Egypt, and they uprose and all that shit. There was military people who would take you in and get your shit.
So
disappear you.
but free speech costs $650 billion a year.
No,
though.
I don't agree with that.
No.
Nope.
Yeah, of course not.
Nope.
It's actually,
Delete.
it's supposed to be a thing that's...
Delete.
I mean, I'm just saying, like that's what sucks about it. Sometimes it's like, as Americans, I feel like we've done that too long, where we're just like, well, it's really cool over here because we have this right and that right, and it's like, yeah, that's usually what kind of rights you get when you bully everybody into leaving you the fuck alone. You get free rights. You get to come do whatever the fuck you want to.
Yeah.
You know, that's what happens when you're the big gun in town. You can just step through town and be like, "What's up, baby? How you doing? Give me some of that oil over there.
How you
what
doing?
you doing over there? I don't like what you're doing. No more money for you." You know, and just walking and talking and pistol walking. You know, that's wild. So I mean, I feel you, but it's wild.
I think both things can be true at the same time. I think you can say that you like free speech and that you want less military.
Exactly, and I would like to say that. I would like to say that loud and proud, that I would like to decrease that number greatly.
Because free speech only has to do with us anyways. It has nothing to do with military shit anyway.
No, I mean, that's
like nobody in Iraq's fucking with my free speech. If anything, I'm fucking with his free speech.
Facts. You know, and it's just always this idea of like, you know, it's funny. We stumbled upon democracy, and then we were like, "Oh, trust me, it's good. Let me show you."
You
how
guys
good
want this democracy? You're gonna have it by force. You're gonna want a free political system so much that we're gonna force you into it.
Yeah, and I think that
and at first we're not going to include your women. Not at first.
You got to do it right. You got to do it just the way that we did it. There's a specific way that you get to how we got here. You got to first keep it to just whatever. Who owes the most money in your society? Okay, those people get to go first. And then after about 100 some years, then you're going to open that up to like somebody else, like another class. Then after that, you can start talking about women. They have to.
That's a good point.
You got to open it in phases, like a reopening of your.
That's a really good point. That democracy has opened in phases, and like the
phase
original phase was nowhere near as good as what we have today. But we have grown and changed. Made mistakes like prohibition.
But it's crazy that we're just out here, you know, oppressing. But okay, after doing this is where I'm at with this. You know, if I'm kind of leaving this conversation a little bit, is like where I've overarchingly came to with this whole conversation was like, it woke me up. It literally woke me up to like, I always thought I knew how deep the propaganda ran through my veins, you know? I knew that I had been brainwashed my entire life to be like, America's great, you know, and like the flag and the pledge and all this stuff. And I always knew, I was like, okay, this is like a weird like part, but I just didn't know how deep that went. And I you know, I still buying into that. The communists are bad, and like this is great. Like what we do here, this is the right way to do things, and it's better this way. After looking at this conversation, I'm like, yikes, man. Like, what if I found out that, you know, that's what they're saying, we're getting woken up now. Because now that they're turning that machine back inwards on us, we're starting to see how oppressive it is. You know what I mean? Like, we're starting to see, like, dang.
Get a taste of our own medicine.
It's like, we're like, yo, this thing really been getting out of control as we haven't really been paying attention. And then now it's scary to think, well, what have we created? You know, like, what is this big behemoth thing that's just reaching out across our entire planet and influencing it in ways that nobody else can really keep up with? And I don't know if, being on the inside of it and witnessing, I don't know if I can trust the people with that level of force. Not even power, but force.
Force,
You know, like that level of force. It shouldn't be available to people.
So then maybe a good way to like kind of close out the show would be to discuss what we do think the appropriate level of force in society is. You know, like where we do think if we were going to do it right, what does that look like, you know? Like
I think one of the things we haven't touched on that brings a good point to what you're saying, Mac, is, you know, kind of looking at it from the other side, as I can think what you're saying, right? Is, you know, everybody's got nuclear weapons now. We used them. The past happened. It's real. We did it. It's bad. Now everybody's got them. So if we're not out there policing the world, there's an argument to be made, right? That like, oh, well, nuclear arms could just proliferate further. So something on the positive side of foreign intervention, by the United States, is to stabilize the nuclear regimes. I'm stretching, but I mean,
my question,
stabilization.
My question would be, how'd they get them?
Yeah.
How they
the scientists figured it out. They said, "Hello."
Same way we figured it out. So it's like this idea that you stop. Like, if somebody were to drop a nuke on us, would our ability to be able to drop a nuke back on them help us any?
It already has, and I think it will continue to. I think the idea of, if you strike us, know that missiles are already somewhere in the world coming to you, is a great deterrent at the current stage.
That's
and
true.
If it stays that way.
That's what we've been operating on since like the Cold War is armed deterrence in the sense that like we both know that we are equipped with these weapons now.
Destruction.
I feel like it's just another double arm lock that they put us in now. Because you're only afraid of the same thing that we created in the world. So
yes, I don't like it.
I don't understand how that's just another boogie monster that they're going to use forever to prop up the machine. So I don't think that we can accept that as a fair excuse. I think we started it. We could be the first to, and this is classic though. This is classic. This is why it would be the hardest thing ever to see libertarianism or any type of personal responsibility rise to the top of this whole character. Is nobody wants to do the hard stuff. Whether we were conditioned that way because they could let them do this whole thing or whatever, but we don't want to pay back our debts. It's like people don't want to put ourselves into recession on purpose. Defund all these, like I said, increasing over ballooning budgets. It's easier to just hop in on the trend and ride it than it is to be the one to stand up and say, hey, this is fucked.
Right.
And like we need to do it the other way. And then even if you are, it's even harder to get everybody else to be like, yeah, he's right. Let's do it the hard way. So my point being is, you boldly stepped out there to create that fucking machine. Us as Americans, we still today, the only motherfuckers, like I'm saying, how can we really be buying into this crazy brainwashing that they're the dangerous ones when we today are the only people who've ever used that? Mm-hmm. The only reason we even know it's that dangerous is because
on a civilian population.
We blew up an entire city.
Just blew it up twice.
2 of them. And so
two
the
bombs.
idea that, like I said again, this idea that they keep proliferating that everybody else is dangerous, I'm not buying it anymore. I just can't after looking at this conversation. So it's definitely not that. I think even if you don't want to let go of nukes, fine. Hold those, hold the ceiling. But all that juiciness in between, all that's unnecessary fucking juice as far as I'm concerned. I can't see, and and that's what they'll say. Well, you don't know about the geoscopes, blah blah. Look, if everybody else can do it, if every other nation out there who's no better or worse than us, Canada, Italy, the UK, Germany. I told you Germany took over. They did that. They did what you're doing now on a quarter of what you're spending. And I obviously could argue back then they were spending way, way, way more, right? It was a different machine. But I'm just saying, we're grossly out of control out here. And it's just like, we're just bullies. I can't see us not being bullies right now. And so the solutions to this, it's got to be step one is to dissolve this stuff.
Slowly just
dissolve it. Not even melt that shit back down, fool. Like take all that shit and turn it back into natural resources or something to be repurposed for something else. Mm-hmm. Or, like I said, turn all those tanks into the steel you use to build these fucking bridges out here. Mm-hmm. and space bubbles and hyperloops and things that are going to take civilization into the next
right. We need to have a infrastructure industrial complex.
Right.
Yep.
Like, you know what?
Or an agricultural, technological.
But a reform base. Like something that's based on...
No, they fucked us over with the agricultural one. That's a whole nother podcast.
They got the seeds on lock, bro. They got the seeds on lock. Anytime it's industrial complex.
Yeah. But honestly, I would rather I would prefer, like, if they were still gonna rip me off, they were like, we're still gonna rip you off, I'd be like, all right, spend it on the infrastructure then.
Yes.
Rip me off while you're redoing my infrastructure then.
Like, I would
if
just
you're
rather
gonna rip me
that.
off, then do it for something that I actually
Fight over
from.
That's funny.
Right, like how to
who's
make
gonna
our
make
schools
the
better.
most
And like how to
advanced
fix, like you said in the
school-level
first
system.
episode, how to fix the roads.
Yeah.
Like fix the shit that we have going on here, and then
I'm only taking this stance if we're removing what my stance will be forever and ever and ever on the podcast, which is remove government power and control. So if I had my way, we would dissolve the entire, like not the entire, but like I said, I would move it back down to like a standing army that we can mobilize. We would play catch up. I would put us back to where we had to play catch up again. Like
we would only start mobilizing if we were attacked.
Like if we were attacked or if something was popping off and we're like, just like we always did back in the day, it's like, oh shit,
get everybody
get a militia time, like everybody come running. All right, I'm joining the military. What happened? It's popping off out here. Let's go. We gotta go.
We gotta save it.
Right? Like let's run. Okay, but in the meantime, everybody shut the fuck up and do what you was doing. Like we'll deal with that.
Make sure
when we
you
get
do
there.
your shooting practice at home.
Yeah,
make sure you're good. But on the meantime,
state National Guard. Fine, keep
I want
the
like
National
a full
Guard.
reserve.
Yeah, keep
army.
the National
like
Guard.
a full reserve army.
Bust the National Guard up.
I'm cool with the Navy still patrolling the waters and taking care of trade routes. I'm cool with that.
Sure.
I'm cool with a whole lot of ideas that have to do with like having a military.
Around us. But this
Yeah.
idea, like I said, that you're 700 bases out there, that you're going to patrol the Mediterranean Sea and all that shit. Nah, there's other armies. There's other people out there.
Let the Mediterranean deal
You
with
trade
that
with
shit.
those fools. Don't be out there trying to push them around.
If anything, your ship should be guarding our ships while they're there, and then guarding our ships as they leave.
But stop bothering those fucking people, man. Stop running into black communities and shaking them up. Stop running into Muslim countries and shaking them up. Stop, just stop shaking everybody up out here. That's it. It's just, it's tough. But I would, back to my point, my stance will forever be that even if we tried to just flip to schools right now or flip to infrastructure, like you said, they'll find some way to fuck that up too. Well, all of a sudden our garbage shit will be like, you have to be paying $700 a month to get your garbage taken out or something ridiculous. They'll figure out some way, because like he said, one of the big problems with this is it's not $650 billion that we're actually spending on military. It's like 400 plus like surplus or a ghost budget. A story I always tell about this that's huge, that when I really realized that this happens, was in the barracks. Like John said, we get issued gear and we'd have to turn in gear constantly, right? And you'd always have to, they have the prices of everything and it's in good condition, you broke it, ripped it, don't have it, whatever. And you'd have to pay for the things you lost and all this stuff, right? So they're keeping track of it. But I'm signing for my barracks room and I have a chair that's no cheaper than this little computer chair. It's like, I paid $50 for this computer chair. It was a wooden chair and it had a little angle cut in the backside so you could like rock back. That was it, like that. This to that. Okay, it was made of wood and upholstery. $356 it said this chair cost on this inventory for my barracks. $356.
No,
I'm
sir.
like, bro, I run down to Lazy Boy right now and get $356 with a cup holder and like a TV that comes out the armrest and shit. I'm like, what you mean this wooden plywood chair is $356? That don't make no sense. And then I realized it's not that. It's that, you say it's $356. You buy the chair for $40 and you flip it. It's a scam.
Yeah, you flip it. It's a scam, bro. They scamming. They jugging. They
jugging for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
For real. It's a finesse, bro. It's like
funny,
I got the
man.
chairs for $40 and I sold it to these dummies over here for $450 a piece,
Yep.
bro.
Hey,
That's
my
a
uncle runs a chair
400%
shop, dog.
profit.
Yo,
Yeah.
my uncle runs a chair shop, dog. Come on down to
400%
47th Street. Hit my uncle's chair shop.
So that's why the budget gets out of control and it's just nuts. And there's plenty of proof of that, plenty of times throughout all these contracting companies and all that stuff.
Same thing with the police.
Yeah. So again, all that stems out from because I think the government got all this money to give out. It's just sitting around. So they're like, hey, sure, here's a contract. That sounds like a good price. Whatever. Not my money. Here, have it. Just give me my part. So But if I have to take a stance, then I'll take the stance of like, let's reform. Earlier I was talking about instead of going through the fighting and killing you to get to the technology that changes lives, let's try and change lives, and whatever we figure out from there, let's let that kind of fall into the hands of whatever the fuck, filter back the other way. But we should be thinking about building.
We should be looking at ways to change our military to not only be more economically and like sociologically like to benefit us more, but also be more economically friendly, less of a force and more of a deterrent, more of a reactionary than an actionary.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Just
like,
pacify. They just need to be pacified. Like hit them with
all those things that we want to do to the police. We want to do to all of us.
Weed. If you do anything in the military, you have to smoke cannabis. Like heavy doses of indica.
Like super indica
bud.
Super
indica
so
bud. Just
like laying around like...
It's what? Oh, alright. Let's get to work, boys.
Hey, I knew some boys in the military that got it, boys.
It's over?
Alright,
we missed it. We missed it. Y'all got it? Okay. Lazy and shit. Oh, you got it? Alright, cool.
Egypt will be alright.
Cool. But I think that most people, I mean, like I said, not that there's not dangers out here. Not that I don't think that abolishing the police is a good answer either. Like I think that the police can. I don't think that they have yet, but I think that they can form a good functioning role in our society. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of jokes and things out there. Mac was talking about. There's that tweet going around about how there's no songs like "fuck the fire department" or whatever.
Oh yeah, it was like people were basically saying like, well, if the cops were good at their jobs, then nobody would hate them because nobody screams out "fuck the fire department." And I was like, that's true. I've never heard anybody say that before in my life.
And it's facts. And there was that joke about
the fire department doesn't give tickets and shit.
Never have I heard somebody say, "Thank God the police are here." It's like as a black person, made the joke. But I'm like, I feel that.
I've never heard a white person say that.
Say that, dude. I've never thought that. I've never thought it'd been like, yes, at the perfect moment when I needed them, thank God the police showed up. It's always been like, oh shit,
here come the cops.
Here these fools come, bro.
Yo, put that down.
Put that. You know what I mean? Like
they're gonna jam us up about us doing something that doesn't do anything.
Drinking, like nothing. Yeah, I'm just hanging out back here in my backyard and they're trying to jam you up. Huh? It's weird. But they just gotta kick it back down a couple notches.
We need to, and that's why I think it's like, I don't know about the privatization, but it should run more like a service, like any other, like your plumbing service or whatever, like, because if you have a police force, a military force, then they have to enforce. And it's like, no, I need you to service me. Yeah. I need my police service.
What's the difference between calling an ambulance and calling the cops? I feel like it should be the same thing.
Right.
It should be the same thing.
Like, I never see an ambulance just like flying around chasing down cars. Are you sick? Let me take your temperature.
Jumping
fucking
out.
Spitting his cup.
Not even asking you. Just tackling you to
taking
the ground.
it. Before they stop moving, you got hypodermic needles stuck in you. You're like, what the fuck,
dude? Sedatives, and they hop out.
You look sick.
Yep.
They get paid every time they find a sick person.
We've been looking for this sick guy, and you look like him. Somebody told us about some sick guy that looked dangerous around here.
Oh my gosh, it's true.
That's funny.
It's true, and I don't think they can look at it and not see it that way. I don't think anybody can, especially at this point. Too many of our eyes have been woken up to it. I could not get down with the conversation that it was happening to black people specifically, like as in like it was targeted towards black people.
Which are you talking about?
I'm talking about just this idea that the police getting out of control was directed at black people.
Yeah, no, we believe that it's affecting black people, but it's directed at
all
of us and all of the civilian populace and the poor and the, it's not the well-to-do white-skinned people. Like we agree.
Yeah.
Like the people with white skin who have money who drive
like
nice
we just
cars.
watched the story of that 80-year-old white man get blazed down in his bed just like Breonna Taylor did. So it's like
that's a poor person.
Yeah, it's poor. It's like you don't have no. And it's weird too because
when's the last time you heard about the cops blazing somebody down in a mansion?
Yeah, when's the last time when's
the last time cops are in mansions?
What if there was? What if there was like a checks and balance though? Like, what if there was, like, a civilian force? you know? And they're like for every
Patrolling the cops.
Yeah, like for
following
every
the cops
patrol that they go on, there's like a lawyer, you know, like for the people who just like rides around with them and stuff, and just like.
Well, there's like an
keeps it
There's like an
everything,
FBI for the state. There's like an FBI for the state called the State Bureau of Investigations that looks into like if a cop shot a bunch of times at a car that a person was in, and he said, you know, that vehicle was trying to kill me, and that guy was like, no, I wasn't. Then like they look into it.
No, because you're just making more government programs.
That's what I'm saying. No, I'm not advocating for it. I'm not advocating for it. I'm saying that's the program that currently exists.
Yeah, that's
the current system is flawed in the sense that it's just more cops. It's just more cops.
Military police.
I want a completely independent organization.
Completely independent.
These motherfuckers don't train together. They don't live together. They don't know it. It's kind of like when you go to get your driver's license.
You got a random guy in
he
your
just
squad
gets
car
in today.
every day.
And it's like,
you got a different guy every day. Hi, my name's Jim. I'm gonna be your observer today.
And they'll be pissed. We don't need no babysitter. The fuck you do.
The fuck you do. Yeah, you have not proven that you can be responsible out here, so we're gonna have somebody watch you. Fuck these cameras. Y'all aren't turning the cameras on and everything. So we're just gonna have a live person with you in the car on the ground.
There's gonna be
arresting some guy and be like, hey, those cops look kind of tight,
there
dog.
sitting there and be like, recording now. Officer has been applying pressure to man's neck for 6 minutes now. 6 minutes. Let the record show that man is refusing to lift off of the man's neck. Like you know what I mean? And we just, like you said, go in here and get our transparency that we're looking for. Like that would.
Yeah, we're never gonna get our transparency,
No,
man. I
they'll
know. But just a little bit, man. If they could just like.
If we're talking about solutions, I feel like that's a strong solution.
Transparency is a strong solution.
You're not gonna get transparency out. Very rarely. I learned this in my personal life. Like, the only way I was able to get trust from my girl after being a cheater for a long time was, like, giving up the password to my phone, you know? Like, but the point being is, they're not just going to be like, yeah, okay, we'll start telling y'all the right numbers. It's like, if you were going to do that, you would have just done that from the start. You're not. You're just going to say, oh, yeah, we'll stop lying. And then you lie. It's like, but if I watch you, though, it's
Can't
like
lie.
decentralizing.
Yeah.
We need a lot of decentralized. How come Bitcoin works, right? Because we can all watch you. We can all see exactly what you're doing.
We can all see you. And right now, what's crazy is what the government's doing. They're always doing some fuck shit. And it's like, even with the police, the military, the government, we're looking at them and we're saying, yo, you're doing some fuck shit. And they're like, yeah, I know. You can see us.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
You think you can see us. You know, that's what they say. It's like, misinformation.
Yeah,
What's
that's why
that?
they're taking their
Leaked
taking their name tags off.
It's like
taking their
leaked
name
documents.
tags off, you know what I'm saying?
Redacting.
Bring the SWAT team from Texas in, take the name tags off, boys.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
You can't prove that
Posse
we came from Texas.
Comitatus.
Posse Comitatus.
Posse Comitatus.
Yeah.
But I feel like
howl.
that's not what it was, though, when we looked it up. I feel like he was saying that it was something else.
Well, no, it was. It was just like dudes from jails.
No, not that.
Yeah, that was. They're saying the army. Yeah, Posse Comitatus was about distinctly the army.
Yeah,
but
as police.
I think you could argue that this
I was
is
just making the joke that's the first thing that came to my mind.
It's Posse Comitatus adjacent.
Yeah, it's facts.
Posse adjacent.
That's where he went. He went to go get the next thug he could get that wasn't like his own military.
Right.
Yeah. What are you doing over there?
Well, these guys come from a private company, so it's like
you use guns, don't you?
Hey, yeah.
It's like Posse Comitatus. No. That's not us. That's not. We're not Posse Comitatus. Posse Comitatus. We're Posse Comitatus Incorporated.
So it's incorporated. We need your help. But I mean, I'm just like I said, trying to be solution oriented because I mean, the obvious answer is, well, just stop spending so much money on it. But it's like.
How do you get them to do that?
Yeah.
By a massive foreign policy overhaul, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, making it more reactive. But the problem being is that they trigger the reactiveness in us to be proactive. Like, that's how they got proactive in the first place. We were just sitting there back chilling, and they were like, okay, well, we got to shake it up. And this is that thing I was telling Mac about. Okay.
Well, I was just going to say, it's the point that he made about the false flags.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Like just that's what they're for. It's to make us feel like they are reacting to something.
Exactly.
When they're really not.
They're reacting to themselves.
It's just the boogeymen. It's what the Wizard of Oz is trying to tell us.
Yeah. So maybe our really only course of action is to just defund the government.
Burn down the Wendy's?
Just stop paying your taxes? It's definitely not that.
Oh, okay.
Stop paying your taxes? Definitely not. Well, the hard part is that they take it out of your check before you get it. You can even touch it. Yeah. Well, I know a guy. I know some people who don't pay their taxes.
Hey, not if you.
When you work.
Yeah, if you flipping illegal money, people do that all the time.
But I'm just saying, like, when you have just like when you're an employee of somebody, then your taxes get taken out immediately. But like you said, yeah, there are people that make their own money and then have to pay it at the end of the year or whatever if they are gonna pay taxes. And a lot of them don't. Yeah. And some of them go to jail. And some people who pay their taxes go to jail. That's true too. So what do y'all think about this timeline that I've been putting together about since World War II and shit? If you really start looking at it, we've been doing nothing but striking out with these like wars since then. Yeah, of course. Like, it's been nothing but conflicts that were sketchy AF to begin with. It was the war on drugs, which we talked about the war on drugs and how it was kind of ineffective. And even like I don't know, we were just talking about how the war on drugs was ineffective in the sense, and I had read an article earlier that's saying that crack cocaine actually spiked in 2013 as like the most expensive it's ever been, when the war on drugs was specifically designed to make drug. Well, it was the cheapest it's ever been, but the war on drugs was specifically designed to make it expensive to get drugs. Yeah. And so it was like the complete opposite because of those good old unintended consequences, as Obama called it as well. But anyways, my point is, every conflict, there's not been a single one where it was like, thank God, again, same as like I've never said, thank God the police are here, yet have I seen where it was like, thank God the U.S. military intervened in that situation. Good thing they went into Vietnam and cleaned up that mess. It's like, nope. Why were we there? And we got our ass kicked. And it was like, thank God they went to Iraq and Afghanistan to get those WMDs. None of that panned out at all. I found out today Anthrax was one dude. Yep. That was one guy.
But Colin Powell went in front of the United Nations and was like, you see this?
See this stuff?
You see this? This is why you need to back us up. We got a coalition of the willing.
They, on God, came and said that was from Iraq. That stuff came from Iraq. I'm pretty sure you can't have uranium in a vial and just be holding
it. It was anthrax. Wasn't it like anthrax, fake anthrax?
It was yellow cake.
Whatever the fuck.
Colin Powell was trying to say it was yellow cake uranium. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you can't just fuck around with that in a glass vial. It was just in your suit jacket. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't just have your... Like, I don't know. I'm not a chemist, I'm pretty sure you can't just have uranium in your suit jacket.
He's just got like an element from the periodic table. Like, I've got uranium.
Yeah. It's like,
all right, bro.
Boron right here.
I've got this boron, yeah.
Before he went out there, somebody slipped something in his pocket. It was just like, look, if it gets hairy, just pull this out. This. It was just as funny as the guy that came into the place with the snowball, and he was like, global warming,
global warming, huh? Oh. Yeah. Just smoke and mirrors, man. It's just smoke and mirrors, bro. It's just so people fucking... It's like meme culture. That's why politics has devolved to meme culture.
How do you check them in stopping their ability to, like, you know what I mean? Do that. Because this is like same thing we talked about earlier when you're like, politics, it's fun. It's like, I like to watch the competition. It's like a race. I was like, it is cute. I like it on TV where they debate and they just like laugh at each other. But when I think about all the fuck shit going on behind closed doors of like the fact that people potentially are losing their life to like fund and start causes and do all these things to incite incidences in order to make moves is wild to me. It's wild. I don't know how to stop that. And that's what makes it not cute to me. I'm not sure how you go about actually doing that without convincing everybody to care a lot more about it. Focus on it. Yeah, because I mean, if you get 357 million people can really do a lot if they all turn their focus into one thing. That's really true though, because if you really think about it, like you said, my whole views on this subject changed completely just from doing like a
few
day's
hours
worth of research.
Yeah. Just looking at some articles, some YouTube videos, and you were like, holy shit, I have a completely different worldview now.
Yeah, like 100% blew me away. I was like, you know what? This whole situation is different to me all of a sudden. Like, I'm like, my taxes, I'm looking at my whole taxes different. I'm looking at the whole system. And I'm like, so, you're right. I don't know what to say. I'm just saying you could change that pretty quick in just educating yourself.
Yeah. I mean, we're still really choppy. It's the storms.
We're getting through it. We're like, we're coming back up. Yeah. It's like the internet just like rolled by.
You were in a trough there for a second.
You were stuck in an internet tunnel.
What's funny is on my recording, you guys won't be able to see you guys because you guys are like a full second behind, and you get a little wavy sometimes too. But like I can hear you good now. Like you guys haven't been cutting in and out on the audio at all. Like I've been able to be part of the conversation.
It's been the video that's been lagging, but the audio I've been hearing you good.
Yeah.
But this time you started going robotic on the audio too.
Yeah. Well, I want to make just that quick final point though. Is like with military spending, from personal experience, this idea that like how your mind changes, how your viewpoint changes. Like when we were in Iraq and they were like, hey, we got these brand new Trailblazers, drive these around, And it was like, oh, let's go to the Green Bean Coffee place. Throw your M4 in the back of the Trailblazer. And we fucking just ride down there. But at the same time, we had paid so much money to ship these Humvees across the entire world. And they're they gotta be a specs, they gotta be armored, all this shit, man. Think about all that money and time to get those Humvees over there. And they just fucking sat there, bro. And we just got Trailblazers. I remember being in Kuwait and going jogging. And it's like me and some some boys, And we just run by a motor pool. And it's just saran wrap Trailblazers. Just as far as the eye can see, like a vast ocean of saran wrapped fucking brand new American cars. Fucking Trailblazers, Chevys, all that shit. Whatever they were driving. That bullshit they were driving, those Toyotas, whatever. I think those were local.
I used to ask myself that.
We saw those Trailblazers, bro.
I would just be like, who pays the electricity for this place? Like, like who's playing? I was on Fort Hood, one of the biggest, installations in America. It's huge. And I'm like, do they not have to pay? Is it free for them or something? Like, they just get it like on
get the water on them.
Yeah, and then like, how much are you paying? This is just one base. It's like many cities all around the world that y'all are just paying your tax dollars to maintain.
It's kind of like that Disney World play that Walt Disney did, where he went with all these other like smaller corporations that Disney owned and bought up a bunch of land in Florida, and then got it registered as an actual town, so that way he could build the infrastructure like the water and the electrical lines with tax money, and then that's what Disneyland is today.
Exactly. It's wild. And you use your tax money. That's for sure. You're misappropriating. But I just don't want to. I don't want to leave this podcast with just being like, they're stealing their taxes. Put it into the war machine.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we are pretty jaded because. Yeah, we are pretty jaded. We have our solutions, but we're pretty jaded. We want to see the system to change, and it's like we can't fight what we are. What we are guys, averagely intelligent dudes.
Like you said, I definitely
but we're talking about some dangerous shit. Hey, I'm back again. I'm back again. What's up, boy? Hey,
I'm back. What were you saying?
I don't even remember. I don't think I was saying anything. I think I was agreeing because I made at some point and you said something too.
I was just talking about. Yeah, I was just saying like we made a good strong case for the fact that it is fucked in the sense of like that military complex is fucked, but I don't really know in the sense of solutions because both parties are complicit in that, and it's like our whole political system and gaming. Okay. No, I do remember where we were picking up on this was how our roles in it play because we weren't really getting educated, and like how if you get educated real quick and you care, like you actually pay attention to this stuff. I think that is a strong solution to this because like I said, then you start waking up to the idea that it's fucked. Like you said, you start, like right now it's so fucked because we keep just letting them pull the lever on us and hit us with the false flag, and we do the same thing every time. Like you said, nobody pays attention at all, so we're like, yeah, it's the government doing its thing, take care of business for us, you know? So you're right, we always put on some kind of country accent when we think of like, it's like, but it's like, I don't know who I picture, but I definitely picture somebody who's, you know what? Actually, I think that is a misappropriation because it's not them. It's the people who got their heads so fucking far up Netflix's ass that they're not paying attention, or in social media or whatever. That you know, you're not getting out here and you're not like doing your proper due research and be like, hey, what's going on behind those headlines over there and stuff, you know?
Also, you really got to think about your sources. I don't think people use reliable sources. I don't think that they, even if they, and like, sure, I use tons of unreliable sources. I love all the unreliable shit because I get to analyze it and say like, okay, I see where you're spinning the information you gave me. It's very obvious. Something like CBS is going to just be like, give you a little spin at the end, you know, and that's why Trump sucks dicks.
Yeah, to their agenda at the end.
And it's fine, like, I get that.
But then they give you a little twist, too.
Even with somebody like Rachel Maddow, which we brought a Rachel Maddow clip in. So if you take that, too, it's like, you're going to have tons of, like, Russia. You know, you're going to get, like, a lot of this crazy, like, you know, stuff that's not proven. It's speculation. And it's like, I know that source is unreliable.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. People use that too much as an excuse, though, I think. I would even rather you just be digging your ass through unreliable stuff. Because then if you put your unreliable source out there, then that might lead you to somebody be like, that's not right. That happened to me plenty of times. And they're like, that's not right. And then they point me to the right information. I'm like, okay. But too many people are like, well, you know, it's too confusing. You don't know. You can't tell who's telling the truth anyways. You know, and you just
a lot of people will just be like, I don't follow politics. And it's like, but all you do is share Trump memes. Right, that I thought that was politics. Yeah. Like, I guess that in clown world, it's, you know, you get to do whatever you want these days.
We should branch out our idea of politics from not just the president. You know, it's not just electing your president. You know? There's a lot of politics going on. It's like, facts.
That is the most talked about political thing right now, though, is like we've got a couple months, 4 months, three months, something like that until the election. So it's like that's a lot. That's a big, you know. But you're right. Like, we are paradigm shifters. We're the kind of people that want to say like, let's change the system and make it better. You know. Yeah, that's a bad way to follow it. It's a real bad way to follow it. You need to know your history. You need to know what's going on right now. You need to know what the policies are. People just be like, I like his character. Yeah, who gives a fuck about his character? What's his policy? Yeah, they're not letting us see the receipts. They're telling us, oh, our taxes are fine. But they're not letting us see the receipts. Let us see the receipts. Let us see the Carfax, you know. Which one's that? Cisse? Hey, what's up, stinky boy? Give me love, dog. Hey, Aunt Jaime.
Yeah,
where behind me at?
Both my boys. We have to wrap it up then, probably.
Yeah, this has been an amazing episode. Episode 3, the militarization of the police. Yeah. We're killing it out here, man.
What are your last thoughts?
My last thoughts are...
Yeah, your conclusions.
Figure out a way to stop paying taxes.
My conclusion is very simple also. My conclusion is transparency. Just give me some transparency in your police departments, in your military, in your spending, all that shit. I don't want fucking secret code programs. I want a little more transparency. That's a small solution that, you know, could help, could be effective. I mean, I want to burn the whole machine down, but
that's not.
You know, if you could at least give me some transparency.
Yeah. My probably takeaway is it's super fucked. I think we gotta wake up to the idea that there's just it's out of control. I I haven't seen a single justification for it yet. Like nothing. It's like coronavirus numbers. I just haven't seen anything that holds up that says this is dangerous or fuck. And personal responsibility. I think we all got to take our own responsibility for our part in that. If we do acknowledge that it's fucked up, we can't say, oh, it's because of all those dirty politicians and them. We let that happen. So I think it's also our fault too, and we stand by every day as it does. So maybe it is important that we're having a change happen, or a change in mindset happening right now, where people are examining it. The monster's turned its ugly head on us. And so now
I think we're doing a positive thing. A positive thing here by addressing these topics on the podcast and giving it to the people. I think that is a positive effect on society and culture as a whole, and I feel like I'm doing my part by giving you comedy, entertainment, information, sources, history.
It changed me. This topic changed. Like I said, I did not realize how out of control it was. So that was fun to learn about and hear about. But I'm excited to talk to you again next week, boys.
As well.
Yeah.
Me as well.
And we'll see you next week as well, Internet. We'll miss you. Peace.